I know the facts that you never asked, like the ghost of a mime in a paper mask. Did you know the moon's made of cheese, but only the kind that makes you sneeze? He's the man who knows it all, from the creepy to the small. A walking book of useless lore. Now you've opened the crooked door. Crooked, crooked tales so strange, where the horror meets the deranged. Whispered facts that make you laugh, but they'll haunt you in the aftermath. Crooked, crooked, he's the man, with more odd facts than you can stand. In the dark you'll hear his call. Crooked's tales are the weirdest of all. Ever wondered what's inside a haunted chair? Crooked's got the answer if you dare. It's filled with dust from the Bermuda Triangle, and haunted shoes that never smile. He'll tell you how to summon a duck, and why spiders fear the number luck. Ask him anything, he'll know the way, but never ask him for the time of day. He's the man who knows it all, from the creepy to the small. A walking book of useless lore. Now you've opened the crooked door. Crooked, crooked tales so strange, where the horror meets the deranged. Whispered facts that make you laugh, but they'll haunt you in the aftermath. Crooked, crooked, he's the man, with more odd facts than you can stand. In the dark you'll hear his call. Crooked's tales are the weirdest of all. Don't ask about the octopus's secret life, or the haunted pencil that cuts like a knife. Crooked knows it all, and soon you'll see the strangest truth, the one you never need. Creepy tales and facts that break, twist your mind for heaven's sake. But when the stories start to end, Crooked's laugh will make you bend. Crooked, crooked tales so strange, where the horror meets the deranged. Whispered facts that make you laugh, but they'll haunt you in the aftermath. Crooked, crooked, he's the man, with more odd facts than you can stand. In the dark you'll hear his call. Crooked's tales are the weirdest of all. So the next time you hear that knock, don't open the door, it's Crooked's talk. But if you do, just take the chance and hear the tales that make you dance. Late at night, you hear a knock. Crooked's here with tales that shock. His crooked smile, his crooked grin. Oh, let the stories begin. I know the facts that you never asked, like the ghost of a mime in a paper mask. Did you know the moon's made of cheese, but only the kind that makes you sneeze? He's the man who knows it all, from the creepy to the small. A walking book of useless lore. Now you've opened the crooked door. Crooked, crooked tales so strange, where the horror meets the deranged. Whispered facts that make you laugh, but they'll haunt you in the aftermath. Crooked, crooked, he's the man, with more odd facts than you can stand. In the dark you'll hear his call. Crooked's tales are the weirdest of all. Ever wondered what's inside a haunted chair? Crooked's got the answer if you dare. It's filled with dust from the Bermuda Triangle, and haunted shoes that never smile. He'll tell you how to summon a duck, and why spiders fear the number luck. Ask him anything, he'll know the way, but never ask him for the time of day. He's the man who knows it all, from the creepy to the small. A walking book of useless lore. Now you've opened the crooked door. Crooked, crooked tales so strange, where the horror meets the deranged.
Oh, hello. Oh, God, there's something in my throat. Oh, jeez. That's a good start. Hello. Hello, everyone. It is I. The cats are fighting in the corner. Don't mind them. If you hear them thumping around, don't mind them. Hello. It is I, Crooked. Yes, here he is, the Crooked Man. Yeah. How is everyone today? How are you doing? I see Foxy. I see Austin. Squishy Austin. Both Austin must be driving. You best not be responding to this. You must drive. You must be safe. And Foxy is already lurking. Thank you for the lurk, Foxy. I appreciate it. Today, we're going to do what we're going to talk about what I've been working on. I've had a little project, a little thing song. I've been for the fun of it, really, been making a little board game. Making a little board game, I am, yes. But using Yu-Gi-Oh as a framework. I had the idea. As I think song, and my brain goes all wibbly as the mind thoughts start going. Is I wanted to make the version of Yu-Gi-Oh, or at least some version more closer to the version of Yu-Gi-Oh we all saw as kids, right? Where we watch fucking Yu-Gi-Oh, Yugi and Duelist Kingdom, and it looked like the rules were fucking bullshit, and we're all made up on the spot. Everyone's just making shit up. Where it was some kind of strange, like, deck building war game, or some strange pseudo D&D kind of game, rather than like an actual trading card game. And a lot of that is to Yu-Gi-Oh! Is most of the fact that like none of the rules were together by the time Duelist Kingdom was made in the manga. The framework started to appear, and by the time we got to Battle City, the actual idea of how the game was supposed to be played was a set in stone thing, right? And then how it was played in the manga was changed to basically go in line with what the writer had come up with how the game is actually supposed to be played. But I'm interested in that before shit, man. And we have 3 different, and if we count just the anime, just the manga, and just the Season 0 anime, we have 3 different ways to play Yu-Gi-Oh! That's not even counting all the video games that came out before the anime came out. Because there were actually a bunch of video games I didn't know about that were in Japan only that came out, and they were all, and again, all of them had different ways to play Yu-Gi-Oh! They were all completely different from each other, and some of them were fucking insane. Some of them were fucking insane. Like, for instance, here's a good example. There's a Yu-Gi-Oh! Game where where it plays mostly the same, but as Duelist Kingdom, but the fusion monsters were monsters that were made up of basically any combination of monsters, as opposed to the actual physical card game where fusion monsters are set things. In Yu-Gi-Oh, in this video game, fusion monsters were made up of any 2 combinations of monsters, and basically what you would get from the result of that fusion would be completely random. It would be completely random. Sometimes you get a good monster like twin-headed Thunder Dragon, or you get a shit monster that like fusionist. And let me tell you, that Yu-Gi-Oh! Game was the hardest game ever it was the hardest trading card game ever made. Because your entire power level was basically determined by random. and that was like the optimal way to win, was to fish for twin-headed Thunder Dragon and then hope for the best. That's how hard that game was. And oh man, I heard it coming out with a Duelist collection though. I'm really excited to see that. Anyway, so leaving that, I do take a little. So I've been taking inspiration from a bunch of different stuff, right? A little bit from the anime, a little bit from the manga, a little bit from Season 0, a little bit from Warhammer. Yeah, I was fucking Warhammer get involved in this. You'll see. We'll get to that. And I've been trying to. No, I don't want to shrink my model. Click over here. There we go. I've been trying to basically, trying to make more of that game we saw as a kid. Is this the right? Yes, that is the right one. Well, no, it's not the right one. It's not looking at the right thing. Huh. Oh, right, that's what that I'm trying to remember what this camera view was. And this was not something I wanted. Close it. Get out of the way. Be gone. There you go. What I want is a different video capture output. I want the main computer's video capture output. We're going to work on it in this view. We're going to work on it down here, right here in the coziness of the room. I'm going with my couch over here. I'm going to lounge on the couch. Let me just... yes, there we go. Crooked in gentle repose. Very good. While I regale you about my tisms of the past week. Let me see, can I open this? Oh, that's too big. Can I shrink this? Yes, I can. Alright, we have a Word document here. Well, I say it's a Word document. It's a, it's actually a notepad. We don't have access to Word. Word's too pricey for me. I'd probably just get a cracked version like everyone else does. But no. The crooked man is far too lazy for such things. Look how I gentle repose on this recliner. I can't possibly be bothered to find a cracked version of Windows, of Microsoft Word. So we're going to be using Notepad. Notepad's where we're going to put all our information. I also have Microsoft Paint in the background ready to go as well. I'm fucking prepared. Look at me being so prepared. So, where to start? On what I've been writing. Right now I have basically everything in a notebook right here, right next to me. A nice little small black notebook. I usually use it for D&D stuff. Seeing how few pages I actually wrote in this, I barely wrote down anything in this godforsaken notebook. But that's neither here nor there. But yes, first the board. I suppose we should start with the board state. Where are we going to play this game? How are we going to play this game? Oh, maybe we should start with the card sets first. We can do both. We can talk about both. So, to start off with, I decided on first which set of Yu-Gi-Oh cards we were going to use. Right? I was going to start with what sets of Yu-Gi-Oh cards are we going to use? Are we going to use all the way to the modern game? Are we going to use just old cards? What are we going to do? I decided in the end to just use old cards. And in particular, the only sets that are allowed are Legend of Blue Eyes, Metal Raiders, Pharaoh's Servant, and what the fuck was the name of that last set? Another one that came out in between Metal Raiders and Pharaoh's Servant, but I can't remember what set name that is. But that one had Gate Guardian in it. No, it didn't have Gate Guardian. It had Relinquished in it. Spell Rulers. That's it. So we have Pharaoh's Servants, Metal Raiders, Spell Rulers, and Legend of Blue Eyes. Fun fact, back in the day, Spell Rulers used to be called Magic Rulers. Yeah, if you go watch the old Yu-Gi-Oh anime, they call it Magic Cards. They say Magic Cards instead of Spell Cards. But they got sued they got a cease and desist letter. They get sued? I don't think they got flat out sued. But they got a cease and desist letter from Wizards of the Coast. So that's why Yu-Gi-Oh cards, that's why if you find like really old Yu-Gi-Oh cards, they say Magic cards on them instead of spell cards on them. It's because back in the day, spell cards were supposed to be Magic cards. That's what they were called. But yeah, but you know, Mad Wizard of the Coast said, we're called Magic the Gathering, and you can't use the word magic because we copyrighted the word magic. And I shudder at the dystopian reality we live in. But and my mind goes at the dystopian reality we live in. But where you can copyright the damn word magic. The ubiquitous phrase magic. And I'm pretty sure if Konami would have gone to court over this, I would wager money that they would have won. Which is why I don't believe that they actually went to do I should change the music. I just realized I should change the music. That's why I don't believe they actually went to court over this, and they decided just to change it. Just to go, fuck it, it's not worth fighting. Call it spell cards and be done with it. But yeah, that is why I'm 100% convinced of that's what that is. There we go. Some Skyrim lo-fi. That's perfect. Hi, Birdie, you go outside. My doggo wishes for attention. One moment. She can't possibly need to go outside. I literally just let her back inside. One moment. Un momento, por favor. Perfectly good bananas I don't eat, and the only reason I buy is just to feed you. Hello, Black! Look who it is. It is I, Crooked, in gentle repose. It is I, Black, Crooked, in gentle repose, on the recliner, about to feed my dog some bananas. And we're also going to talk about the Yu-Gi-Oh card game I have been creating. My tism of the month, you could say. As I... okay, there you go. As I talk about all the stuff I've written down about the variant card game I was making. No more Hassan talks? Well, get around to that. I need to do a compilation of that. I need to get everything together. And basically, if I get everything together, watch other people's videos until I understand what the fuck's going on. Because that man, let me tell you, that man, since all the shit exploded, has decided to just go straight off a bridge. You have no fucking idea. I'll give you a piece. I'll give you a piece of what's been going on with him recently. What he said recently. He tried to defend Hamas by talking about how no one's actually been raped by Hamas, and it's not proven. No one can prove it. No one's. You can't. None of the people who even came back who said they were raped said they were actually raped. And so there's that. Sounds like we need an entire stream for it. Oh, there's so much. There's so much, Black. It's a lot to go over. And that was what happened like 2 weeks ago. Like Nux Taku's been making videos on it, right? If you want to like. You mentioned justified death of them kids. Like, the man just doesn't shut up. And the fucking, I was watching a Nux Taku video from a couple days ago, right? And he was talking about, like, Al Asmongold's a right-winger. And you know, them right-wingers, they have no morals or values whatsoever. And it's just, like, coming from Hassan Piker and at least some of the things I've told you about so far, made that one of the most hilarious things in existence. Yeah, no, that's a whole stream. That's a whole stream. Like, let me get the banana peel. There you go, Piper. You've had enough. You've had enough. Yeah, it's a whole thing. Like, that's especially again, that was a couple days ago, and there was a new Nux Taku video today talking about Hassan and what new things that he just said today. It just keeps happening. It just keeps going. Like, Jesus Christ, it's hard to keep up with it all. It's hard to keep up with it all, Black. Like, so that's gonna sound in the back burner until I have the time to go through a lot of it and parse out the information so that I can make a more concise stream about it. So today I'm gonna focus on my Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. because that I've been writing down, and I can be more concise about that. Where was I? Ah, yes. I was talking about where we're starting. So there's more. Oh, there's so much more. There's so much more I haven't even told you that I know about. Yeah, there's so much more, but we don't have time for that. But that's going to take a while. So instead, we're going to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh. So as I said, I decided that the first set of cards that we're going to use for this game, right? The first set of cards is going to be Legend of Blue Eyes, Spell Rulers, Metal Raiders, and Pharaoh's Servant, which is basically the Yu-Gi-Oh cards you see from the beginning of Duelist Kingdom, where the Yu-Gi-Oh anime starts, all the way to the end of Duelist Kingdom, where Yugi beats Pegasus. Sorry, spoilers. I'm sorry if I spoiled the fucking 20-year-old anime. Plot twist. Did you know? Plot twist. Yugi's a pharaoh. And then the second thing I'm still kind of hammering out is the board. A fair arrow? Yes, a fair arrow. I'll draw it over here in MS Paint. It's going to be beautiful. Big, beautiful. The board size is still something I'm kind of working on. I have the general layout of it ready to go. Like, I know what the general shape of it I want it to be, where I want everything to be, and how I want it, what I want each zone to be, but I haven't decided on how long or wide the board should be, which is the rough part. It's rough trying to figure out exactly, because like I could make it like infinitely big, right? I could make it like I could make it like a full war game table and make it like 6 foot by 4 foot, right? I could go crazy like that, but like I don't know. I don't know if that's a good idea. Well, that's ugly as hell. Oh well, it's fit for purpose. It's fit for purpose. I can draw it better by hand later. So, what I have here, got a tablet or something? Nope. Nope. We're drawing by mouse. Would you look at all the things I have? Not that. Drawing right now? Yeah. I'm just trying to bring it over here. If you give me one moment. How do I remove a background in MS Paint? Yeah, we'll save it as PNG. Board. Let's see. Can I bring a PNG into Note? Board. Holy shit. Apparently not. I was just going to bring in a file, but I guess I'm going to need to figure out a different method for this. Nice sussy collection of... Yes, enjoy my sussy collection of League of Legends, Larian Studios, shorts I've made, the 17 versions of the Goober army I made. Goober head, the Grasscrest shield, hand. Anyway, I'll just bring this over here. All right, so I have League. I've heard enough. Say no more. Jeff circumcises, man. So, what I have here is the board of what I plan on, the general layout of the thing, right? Let's select crop. Well, that didn't make it bigger at all. Here we go. Here we go. That's what we're looking for. Hush, Piper. This beautiful board right here. This beautiful, absolute beautiful board state I've made right here. Look at this. Look at this glorious thing. It definitely doesn't look like shit. Oh God, look at that. It definitely doesn't look terrible. Definitely doesn't terrible. Do not believe your lying eyes. So, the general layout of the board would be something like this, where you have you sitting on the south side of the board, player sitting on the top side of the board. There'll be there'll be your two zones. It's just my magnifying glasses. Yes, it's just the magnifying glasses. That's all. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. It's just how it looks. It's just how it looks, man. But we have the two starting zones. You have the Yu-Gi-Oh's the 2-star zone. You have the two zones in front of you, which would be shaped basically how the game is right now, right? What do you want on my Twitter, Black? And your opponent has two same starting zones as well. In the middle would be a link cards suck massive butts. I actually don't disagree with that one. Here, I'll put it up there. I don't disagree with that one, frankly. Go over here. Post. But like everyone uses links because links are the monsters that they're the flavor of the set monsters that are just too good not to use, but I don't really like them. I don't like the first iteration. I don't like the iteration they're in right now, where link monsters are basically like, they basically subsumed pretty much the entirety of the extra deck. If you're running anything in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, you're gonna have link monsters. And that kind of sucks, especially since some link monsters are just way fucking better than others. Like 99% of them just suck. So you see the extra deck kind of just like has the usual suspects in it. Oh, look, there's SP Little Knight. Oh, look, there's Appaloosa. Oh, look, there's the Axis Goat Talker. And just like, okay, that, like, and it's just like, and then there's the Fiendsmith collection that nobody likes. They're too ubiquitous. They're either too specific to be used at all outside of a specific archetype, which sucks to deal with, or they're too ubiquitous to the point that they're splashed in every deck, and they're just kind of like, oh well, and they just kind of fuck with themes, you know. They kind of fuck with themes, and I don't like the gameplay loop around them. But like, I use them, of course I use them. I'm playing modern Yu-Gi-Oh. I just kind of go, they're not like so awful that I'm just like, oh, I can't play this game at all. I refuse to touch this game. But like, they're also just like, man, I kind of wish that XZs were better. I kind of wish like XYZs outside of fucking Beatrice were better. I wish synchros were better outside of just playing a pure synchro deck. So, you know, like, I don't really care for them. I don't care for them at all. XYZs are sort of the best. I do like XZs the best. It's a tough call between XZs and synchros. Anyway, we're talking about the board state. We're talking about the board state here. So, you have two starter zones. You have one starter zone here, one starter zone here. Starter zone is where you play all your monsters, you play your spell cards, you play your trap cards. This huge zone in the middle, whose length and width I have not figured out yet, right now this is the no man's land. Neither one of you or your opponent control this area. The general thrust of the game, the general point of the game. Piper, go lay down. Go lay down. The general point of the game is to summon monsters to your side of the board, You crooked, the mouse is barely visible. I don't know if I can fix that. You're gonna have to bear with it. I don't know if I can fix it. Go lay down. Viper's just whining behind me. Just whining behind me. Yeah, I don't know if I can fix that, so you're gonna have to deal. You're just gonna have to fucking deal. But I can do this. So, this area here, we can make it red. And this area here, choose form. Yeah, these areas here, these are your starter zones. Your opponent would sit, you would sit across from each other like a normal Yu-Gi-Oh game, right? So you sit across from each other like a normal Yu-Gi-Oh game, and these would be the zones where you play your spell cards, play your monster cards, and then this big, huge area in the middle, this big, huge area here, this is no man's land. This is basically the area that you have to move across to get to your opponent to either attack their monsters or attack them. Really? I sit on the sides. You can move around on the sides if you want. Like I said, it's probably going to end up being a big board, so moving around the table to move your monsters would make sense to me. This is definitely not going to be like a normal card game where moving is not really something that happens. This is more going to be a board game or a war game than a trading card game. All right, so I'm gonna put that out there first. This is so. Like right now, the board I have in mind right now is 7 spaces wide and 64 inches deep. So it's like, what would that be? That'd be 3 inches for 7 spaces. So that'd be what? 21 inches wide and 64 inches deep. Like that's pretty big. That's a pretty big table. That's what? 64 inches is 5'5". 5'5" inches. And just shy of 2 foot wide. And so what you're trying to do is, let me undo this, is you're trying to summon, no, I don't want to do that. You're trying to summon your, oh, bloody hell. What is this? What is this? What is that? Disgusting is what it is. So you're trying to summon your monster, and you're trying to move it up the board to either destroy any monsters along the way or attack your opponent directly. Like, that's what you're trying to do. And then there are going to be a series of gameplay to try to facilitate moving up the board. Movement. We should probably start with movement. That's the thing. When I'm trying to discuss this, trying to put out where exactly we start with this is going to be the hardest part, right? I would think that movement is something we'll discuss next. And then we'll go to control. I can post links here? Sure. What are you trying to post? What link are you trying to put in here? How big was Ellie's cock? I see how it is. I see how it is. That's a ban. If Roxy is here, she'd circumcise you. Anyway, so movement. Movement, yes. So, monsters that you summon to your side of the field. I should mention that most of the rules of this game are going to be the same as normal Yu-Gi-Oh! If I deserve it, then by all means. Man has no regrets. Most of the rules are going to be the same as average Yu-Gi-Oh. This is mostly going to be pointing out where things are differing, where we're diverging off, and how it's different. For instance, movement. Every monster in this game can move across the board. And the movement is determined by the level of the monster. So, say you summon Silver Wolf to the field. Silver Wolf is a level 3 monster. So he gets to move 3 spaces. So you would get to move. They're simple enough. He gets to move 3 spaces forward, or he can go diagonal, or he can go side to side. Whichever way you want to move him, you can move him in any direction. And yeah, they're only limited by levels and special rules. Which we'll get to those special rules later. The point of moving up the board with weaker monsters is, and that's really all for movement, right? That I kept movement very simple. It's just moving forward, and what you're doing when you're moving forward, what you're doing when you're. Is it still strategy to move? I would assume it's a strategy to move. What you're doing when the big thing, right? The big thing that makes, I would say I'd say probably one of the main things about this game, right, is area of control. When you start the game, you decide what field you're playing on in your starting zone. So your starting zone can be forest, it can be Sogen or field, it can or plain, it can be mountains, it can be wastelands, it can be Umi. You and your opponent both choose which ones you're starting on, and then when you move up on the board, you can, through several different methods, take control of these areas. So say your monster moved here. And you did one of the things that you can do to gain control of areas. You would gain control of the area from here back to your starting zone. And so what you're basically doing is that you're pushing forward, taking territory, and trying to force your way to your opponent, or to take over enough of the board to lock your opponent, basically to exert pressure on your opponent, to basically make it that he can't come and attack you directly. And how you would and your monsters also get effects based upon the fields that they're playing on. For instance, beast types would get the ability to ambush if they're playing on a forest zone. And I should probably pull out my notes to actually tell you what exactly I'm supposed to be saying from this point. I'm kind of ad-libbing this from memory, if you can't tell. But yes, these would be different fields. These would be just basically zones of influence, is what I would call them. You can also call them control zones if you want to be a little less pretentious. And I crossed out those pages. So, the first 2 rows can never be taken over. The fields can't change mid-game. You can change your field with field spell cards. But, your opponent cannot change, your opponent cannot change your field spell, what your field is. They can take control of these zones. They can remove the zones that you control, and through various different means. But if you're playing, say, Umi, and they're playing Wasteland, they can't play a Wasteland field spell to try to get rid of to try to change your field spell from, from Umi to Wasteland. They can't do that. But they can use the field spell to take control of different zones that you're not controlling out here in Wasteland. They can use it to take away zones you're controlling. And I'll get to that when we get to how you gain and lose influence, how you gain and lose control. But this is basically the general idea. And the benefits of doing influence is basically it allows you, the more you push out, the further out you can summon your monsters. So say Silver Wolf is 3 spaces up, you gain control of the zone he's in, plus the zones that are behind him. Basically straight down this column, starting from where he is, going back, he gains control of these areas as well that he's been to. You can now summon any monster in these zones that he has that you control. So basically what this does is it allows you to put pressure on your opponent to stop them from, say, just castling up in their zone and just waiting to summon a big monster and then sending that out. I don't want to deny castling as an option, but I do want to give people like the ability to push out and apply pressure to stop your opponent from doing that if they try to. So you have to take over before summoning. You can summon back in your zone, right? You can summon any monster back in your zone. These 2 first zones right here, here, let me draw my circle again. These 2 first zones right here, these are yours no matter what. No matter what your opponent does, he can't you do not lose these 2 zones. So you can always summon a monster back in these 2 zones. You can always summon a monster back in the first zone or the second zone or the second row. You do, however, have to deal with it if you do not summon them out here. That you are much further back. Your monster has to move much further out. Because remember, the board is 5 foot long, which accommodates at this point 12 spaces. I assumed those were your hand cards. I said they were zones. No, the entire field is 16 spaces long. It may get longer, it may get shorter. I'm not entirely sure yet. And I'm still debating on whether or not I want them to be able to summon in their they have to be able to summon in their starting zone. But I'm debating on like having so we're handless. What? Here. If this is killing you that much. There you go. There you go. There's your hand. There's your hand. Right there. Your hand is in your hand. What do you mean? Where is my hand? This is one of the rules that's the same. This is. How am I gonna bust one on Magician Girl? She's not in the set. I'm kidding. I'm right. I drew it. It's there anyway. It's there anyway, Black. You laughed. You made fun. But now reality's crashing in on you. Now reality is coming down. So no, not reality. No, not reality. Another idea I've been playing with is so anyway, one of the ideas I was playing with the field influence zones, right? But you kind of touched on it. I've been debating on whether or not I want to make it that high level monsters can only be summoned out in no man's land, out in this area out here. Nope. Oops. Whoops. Whoops. Out in this area out here, and can't be summoned in your starting zone. I feel like that's a bit too silly. But it does. But it would it would very much force your opponent to have to actually engage with the board, right? Because they won't be able to summon stronger monsters if they don't actually go out there, go out from the starting zone. Now, attacking monsters is mostly the same in this game. Only instead of just like attacking from any point, you can only attack It's not silly if you have your own zone to start off of. That's what see, that's the thing I keep him and hawing about. Yeah, that's the thing I'm him and hawing about, but you're probably right. You're probably right. As long as you have your starting zone to build off of, and plus there's a bunch of different attack points and rules benefits that you get as in your zones and how you push out, that even having a less powerful monsters, you can still do stuff. Which I'll get to that when I get to that. But yeah, maybe that's for the best. I'll note that down later. I'll note that down later. Anyway, so like attacking is the same. All the stuff that goes into attacking is the same. The only difference is that you can only attack early bird catches the worm. Yeah. The only difference is you can only attack monsters that are right next to your monster. Except unless you have a special rule that says differently, you can only attack a monster that is one space away. That is within one space of your monster. So if they're here, if they're here, if they're here, if they're here, you can attack them. But you can only attack once with that monster. Again, unless you have a rule that states otherwise. Piper, you go outside. Now she wants to go outside. One moment, be right back. Now, I won't bury the lead on that one, but because there are different rules that allow you to attack at longer ranges. For instance, all spellcasters come with the special rule of range. So spellcasters can attack a number of spaces away up to their level. So a level 4 spellcaster can attack 4 spaces away, which means Dark Magician can attack 7 spaces away. And another ranged attack that monsters can get, depending on their type, are dragons. Check memes. I will check memes. But another type are dragons. Dragons all have breath attack, so they all get a line attack based on their level. And I'll get into what breath attack actually is when we get to it. But to note, I win. Shut up. Quiet you. Shut up. So that's the basic that's the general gist of the game, right? The general gist of the game is you summon monsters, you move out to your zones, you take control of the zones to try to mount to have mounting pressure against your opponent to summon stronger monsters. Crooked all serious about his brilliant idea. Me tic-tac-toe, go brr. You and your damn tic-tac-toe. You and your damn tic-tac-toe, man. So, but yes. So that's the general gist of the game, right? Attack points are reduced the same. You and your damn shenanigans. Yeah, you and your damn shenanigans. Attacking monsters and how damage is dealt is the same. You both still start at 8,000 life points. The only difference is one of the differences is direct attack zone is at the edge of your starter zone. If you make it to the end of the board, right before the starter zone, that's where you can attack your opponent directly. So attacking directly is not something you can do when there are no monsters on the board. You have to get to the other side of the board before you can do it. But that's, yeah, you got to go all the way there to attack directly. And so it makes it, so again, it also makes moving across the board more desirable, because then you can just attack your opponent. Now, let's talk about influence. Influence or control. How do you gain this influence and what does it do? Well, as I stated before, influence and control, influence or control, whichever word you want to use, I haven't decided yet, is basically it's the area that you control. The area that you control is then affected by the field that you have chosen. So, if you are, say, fish, if you are using Umi, and you send out a monster and take control of zones, they are all Umi. All the zones that you take in No Man's Land are the same field type that you control. The area then I control. Yeah, the area then you control. Then you control. Then the trolling begins. But yes, it all becomes Umi. Or it becomes forest, fields, mountains, wastelands, whichever. Now, what does this do for you? What did the field zones do for you? I have changed their field spell card. If you can trap your opponent, then it's trolling. Yeah, I mean, if you box your opponent completely out of the fucking game, yeah, then I guess it's trolling. Then you can just troll the shit out of him, but I think they'll just concede at that point. But I've changed the field spell cards. The field card is the main focus. The field card is the thing that enables your monster type effects. I have changed the rules of the games I have changed. I have changed field spells and how monster type effects work, and added monster type effects. All monsters in the game, no matter if they are a normal monster or an effect monster, have monster type effects. Yes, if you are not, you get attack and defense. You get two things from the field spell. You get attack and defense bonus. So you get attack and defense bonus by a straight 500. It's not fucking 300 like it was. Like the original field spell was like 200 attack points. No, you get a flat 500 attack points if you're on your field spell zone. But you also activate your monster type effects. Your monster type effects, no matter if it's an effect monster or a normal monster, I just said this, but I'm going to say it again, will have an effect. But these are universal effects. These are effects that are all dragon types have these effects. All beasts have these effects. All beast warriors have these effects. All warriors have these effects. All machines, all thunders, they all have their own effects that are universal to them, that are universal to their type, to say. So, how do you gain this influence? We'll go over what effects monsters have later. So yeah, there's no real normal card. Begone, bot. Ah. No, there's no. I caved his skull in. I came at him and went, wah! And I caved his skull in. He's dead. He's dead, Jim. So I'll use an example, right? I won't very lead on this. I'll use an example. All beast warriors have all beasts. Not beast warriors. So you start with beasts. All beasts have access to 3 effects. They all have fleet. Fleet being, there'll be another page that basically just has all these special rules listed out, so that you just have the one page. But basically, fleet is just you take your level around. Let me phrase like this: you increase the movement of your monster by half your level, rounding down. All cards normal when no field effect. All cards are effect monsters when there is one. Basically, yeah. Basically, yeah. But I do want to point out, effect monsters are still effect monsters. Effect monsters will have 2 things that they can do. They have the effect that's unique to their card, and then they also have monster type effects as well. They would have 2 effects. They're also going to be, monsters are going to get extra effects put onto them. depending on how I plan to do this. Because I plan to do this by having, was thinking the same. Yeah, okay, I'll just make sure you know. I assume that people would know this, but I'm just making sure people know that, yeah, they would have 2 effects. And how I plan to do this is that I'm going to have a 3-tier system. There's going to be normal cards, basically non-rare cards. All the monsters you can just play at 3, no problem, no issue. The hassle, you gotta rework all normal monsters and give them effects? No, I don't. Because what I plan to do is I'm stealing a page from Warhammer, or 1-page rules, where where this monster type will have effects. They don't need to be written on the card. You would just go refer to the rules, and the rules will say, if this monster is a beast type, it has this rule, and this rule. And then you go read what those rules are, and that's what the monster has. No matter what kind it would be, no matter what, as long as it's the same type, it'll have the same rules. Only some monsters will have different effects, and those are ones I divide up into being rare or legendary creatures. So assuming I have 4 beast monsters, they all gain the same effect of the rule. Yes. As I'm trying to explain, but I keep jumping over all around different points. Let me focus on the main point. I was using the example of beasts. Beasts, all beast types, no matter what beast type, no matter what monster it is, no matter what actual monster it is, so long as it is the beast type and it's on a field zone you control, they all have fleet, ambush, and they all have fleet and ambush. So meaning that even if you summon Silver Wolf, or if you summon what's another beast monster that I can't remember at the moment, no matter if you summon 3 Silver Wolves or 3 Silver Wolves and another beast monster, they will all have fleet and they will all have ambush. The only ones that are going to be different are the ones that will be that I will select to be rare cards or legendary cards. And those cards will be limited in a way. Rare cards being monsters that you can only bring up to 2 of, and legendary monsters you can only bring up to 1 of. But the trade-off of that is legendary monsters will have wild effects. Like, these cards are going to be fucking stupid, but you can only bring 1 of them to a game. So, but those are the only ones that will be different. The rest of them will all have the same effect. And only some monsters are going to be selected to be legendary. For instance, Dark Magician is going to be legendary. Dark Magician is going to be legendary. Flame Swordsman is going to be legendary. Blue Eyes White Dragon is going to be legendary. Though I might make a rule to accept Blue Eyes White Dragon from this rule and just make his effects a little less wonky, a little less wacky. But anyway, the point of this is with the legendary system and a type system is to try to emulate the kind of effects that you would have seen in the Duelist Kingdom anime. Remember how in Duelist Kingdom in Yu-Gi-Oh, no matter if it was a normal monster, an effect monster, or whatever the fuck, they just seemed like they could do whatever the person looking at the time said they could do. For instance, Giant Soldier of Stone and the Umi incident, or comes to mind, where now Giant Soldier of Stone, attack the moon! Or when the Castle of Dark Illusions fell out of the sky because Gaia destroyed its fucking flotation ring. Or how Castle of Dark Illusion made a field effect happen where all of Darkness's Pain, or whatever the fuck his name was, Pain, Darkness, whatever the fuck his name was, all of his fiend monsters were concealed, so Yugi couldn't attack his monsters because he didn't know where they were. Like, I want to emulate like effects like this, and try to make them more concise, so that you could understand. So like they always came across to me like someone was like reading rules from a Warhammer book. Like, yeah, my unit does this because that's what my codex it says it does. It says it has access to rend. For this unit can use the special rule rending. And I know what's the special rule rending? Well, we both pull out the core rule book, and the core rule book says what rending is. And that's kind of the same idea I'm trying to emulate here. All monsters will have these special rules: ambush, fleet, rending, evasion, things like that. And the main rules will have all the special rules that these and have them separated out by monster type, so that you can see it. Okay, I go to beast. Beast has these rules, and that's what a beast can do. And so I think that opens up the game to being a lot more interesting. Don't you? Wouldn't you agree? Where you jostling for control. You're jostling to take positions on the board, not only to summon stronger monsters, but also to put your monsters in a superior position by having the benefit of their fields and their effects, while denying the opponent his field and his effects. Or just trying to stack bonuses on your monster to make them strong enough to just swing over it. This idea, this has been the main like core idea of the game since I first started thinking about this, and I think this is probably the most fascinating point about it. The most fascinating idea around it. Now, I've been wheeling around this point quite a bit. How do you gain influence? How do you take control of these zones? Well, that's an easy part. There are 3 ways to do it. The first way is by when you have a monster out in this zone, you play a spell card. Doesn't have to be a specific spell card. It can be any spell card that you want to play. As long as it is not a card that targets or destroys your opponent's monsters, any spell card will give any one monster control of the zone it is currently standing on. So for instance, our little blue space here, our little blue space here, if I say I played, just played an equipped spell card, right? Just played any equipped spell card and equipped it to this, you played the equipped spell card, I can then select any monster on the field that currently does not have control of a zone and gain control of that zone the monster is standing on, plus all the zones behind that monster going back to your starting zone. So, as I noted with this line right here, you would equip a card to this monster, to the blue circle monster right here, to our blue hypothetical blue circle monsters, and then all the blue scratch marks you see going down the line, you would take control of those zones. So those would be the benefits of that's the one way of how you can do it. The other way of how you can do it is by playing field spell cards. The physical field spell cards have been changed on how they work. They no longer have a direct effect in and of themselves. Umi, Sogen, all that stuff, they don't have an effect. But what they do have is that when you play this card, as long as it is either a generic field spell, which we'll get to what a generic field spell is later, or the main field spell you have on the field, you get the field spell zone. When you play it, it affects all monsters on the field, all of your monsters, and so it's like one spell card, but it affects all your monsters and does the exact same thing as the equipped spell card. But you take your monster that are not controlling a zone, they control that zone, and then they control every zone behind that monster as well. Moving the monster moving is like chess moves with extra features. No, it would be like chess if every chess was just a queen. Basically, if every chess was just a queen piece where it could just move in any direction, because you I wish I had just move. So you have this, right? This monster can move this red space one right here. Let's say you have a 4-star monster. So your monster can go bam, bam, bam. It could also go bam, bam, bam. It could go straight down the line. It could go straight to the corner. It could go back into your starting zone if you want it to. But it can only move up to the level that the monster is. It can go as many tiles at once. No. As I said earlier, your monster's movement is limited by its level. So the higher level monster it is, the farther it can move. Which is also why grabbing zones out here is more threatening. Yeah, so a level 6 can move 6 tiles. A level 3 can move 3. A level 4 can move 4. A level 8 can move 8. Which is why summoning a monster further out is more threatening. Because basically, if you summon a big monster in the middle of the board, it can go fucking anywhere. It's only gonna take a small amount of time for it to get up to you. So, as I was saying, field spells affect all monsters on the board. They affect all of your monsters on the board, and so basically every monster that's not currently controlling a zone then controls that zone, and they control every zone behind that monster as well, just like how it would be if you were using a regular spell card. It's just on crack and affects everything on the board, as opposed to just the one monster. So tracing a path behind. No. It goes by column. It does not go by tracing the path, it goes by column. I thought about doing tracing the path, and I thought tracing the path would make things a bit too convoluted. So, if your monster, let's take this monster for example. Oh, well, I'm just gonna draw another monster here. Yeah, figure of speed. Yeah. So just to be clear, if your monster goes, say he's level 4, moves here, here, and then takes a diagonal at the end of this column, and then you play your field spell card, you would only gain control of these columns, not the zones that he just moved through to get to this point. So that, yeah, just to be clear, that's how that works. It doesn't work by following the path of the monster. It works by where the monster currently is, and then working back to your starting zone from there. So it takes control of whole columns instead of tracing a path. Which again, I thought that tracing a path would make things a bit more complicated, so I made it simple like this. It's like connecting the dots. It's just straight lines. It's just straight lines. And I thought that would make things a lot simpler. And so people wouldn't have to fuss about, oh, I moved here, 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 and here, and it kind of swiggles around like this, and no complicated, like, weird circular patterns or something like that. No, it just goes straight back in a line. Straight back to your starting zone. So that's how field spell works. Field spell affect the entire field. Regular spell cards just affect the one monster. And then there is the third way of gaining zones. There's the third way, which is through spellcaster monsters. Now, spellcaster monsters in this game, in this version of the game, are way more complicated. I have basically decided that spellcasters are going to be basically pseudo sub-commanders to your game. they do multiple things. One of the things that they do is that they can take control of zones. A spellcaster on the field, at the cost of being able to move or attack this turn, can take any 4 spaces on the board and flip them to your control. Any square formation like this on the board, they can just take them. Now, these don't go back in the line like the regular ones do. It would just be a block formation like this. Which is handy to have. That they just you want to turn off your opponent's effects. If you want to take zones in front of your monster so that your monster can then just move up and use its effect, run up and attack a monster with full power, using its effects, having 500 extra attack points. That's just something that you can do too. And I think there was one other thing. Let me see. What was the other thing that they can do? I don't remember where I wrote it. That's flanking. We don't care about that. Yeah, there's one more way they can do it. Here we go. Yeah. No, that's a different effect. Sorry, no, I'm being crazy. That's a different effect. that's a different thing spellcasters can do later. We'll talk about that when we get to that later. But yeah, spellcasters have a bunch of things they can do. Actually, I'll talk about some of that now. Spellcasters are very good in this, or at least on paper. Spellcasters do multiple things. They take opponent zones. If your spellcaster has proper alignment, because spellcasters will have their own alignment chart, which was something that was introduced in the Yugioh manga, where spellcasters had their own alignment circle of which spellcaster did well into what spellcaster. They have that, and that was going to have a bunch of different effects on top of that. For instance, light magician, light spellcasters would be called life magicians, or not really. The idea, I can't remember. I'm not sure if I'm going to use the life or the light monsters or wind monsters for this. For life magician, I'm not entirely sure which one I would be using. It was either going to be light monsters, wind monsters, or earth monsters, or spellcasters. But when they're within certain range of a monster, they give that monster toughness. Toughness being if the monster is attacked and would be destroyed by battle, it is not destroyed by battle. And also, so it gives the monster a way to survive a turn of combat without having to actually and not be crumbled into oblivion. Spellcasters also can preload any spell card. Basically how this would be is any spell card can be equipped to a spellcaster, and it turns that spell card into a quick play spell card. And also, if the card equipped to the spellcaster monster is Dispel or Remove Trap, that card becomes a quick play spell card, and it negates the activation of a spell or trap card, depending upon if it's Remove Trap or Dispel. I have a lot of ideas for spellcasters. They are also the only monsters that can summon fusion monsters and ritual monsters. ritual monsters are going to be extra deck monsters in this version of Yu-Gi-Oh! We're not having them as main deck monsters. They're extra deck monsters. And how you summon them is by using a spellcaster monster and the ritual spell card equipped to the spellcaster, where then the spellcaster has to then summon the ritual monster after a turn has gone by. Which I like the themes of that a lot better. Anyway, but that's that's all a bunch of different stuff. It's all a bunch of different ideas I haven't even gotten around to writing down yet. So that's future stuff. For the moment, spellcasters, what we have written down is that they can flip control of boards. They can flip controls of 4 squares on the board to your control. So those are the 3 ways that you gain influence, that you gain control of the board, is either through regular spell cards that affect your monsters, field spell cards, or spellcasters. And now let's talk about the other side of this, right? Oop. Turn that over there. There we go. There we go. Okay. The music stopped playing. Let's talk about the other side of this, right? Let's talk about how do you lose control of on your side of the board? One way we already talked about was spellcasters, because spellcasters can just take parts of your board away from you by just denying themselves an action, being able to move or being able to attack for a turn. The other ways that can be lost is by combat. If a monster is destroyed on the zone that they control, you then, let's say it's your opponent, let's say you attack your opponent's monster on a zone that they control. You destroy that monster. They then lose control of the zone they're standing on, plus any control point they have behind that monster up to half the level of that monster, rounding down. So what I mean by this is, let's say this monster, let's say this circle right here, and the blue circle right below it, were battling each other. Let's say the red circle lost. Let's say it was a level 3 monster, right? So, or level 1 monster. Let's just say that. So, it's a level, let's say it's a level 1 monster. So it dies, it's killed. He loses the zone he's standing on. So he loses this zone here, and because it's level 1, you go down to half the monster's level, rounding down. So he's half a level, so he goes down to 0. So he doesn't lose any zones behind him. But if the monster was, say, level 2, he would then lose the zone he was standing on, plus the zone behind him as well. Plus the zone he controlled behind him as well. So the stronger the monster is that dies on the control zone, the more control spaces you will lose because of that. So it's kind of balance out the cost of summoning a very strong monster and further in the field, a risk versus reward kind of thing. You can summon like the Blue Eyes White Dragon, but if the Blue Eyes White Dragon dies, you'll lose 4 spaces of control behind your Blue Eyes White Dragon, under your Blue Eyes White Dragon and behind it. So you have to be careful. You have to be careful with how you play your stronger monsters, or else you'll end up losing access to whole chunks of the board. You'll lose access to whole chunks of the board very quickly. The other way that you can lose influence, that you lose control points, is by if no monster is in that column. Let's say let's say it's over here, right? Like bam, bam. Let's say you had this and you controlled all the zones behind it, right? Let's say you moved your monster over here. For whatever reason, you moved your monster over here, and now there's no monster in this red circle column, of this column of red circles. At the end of your next main phase, so at the end of your next main phase 1, I should say. So not the end of this main phase, but the end of the next one. If you don't have a monster on the furthest point of control in this column, you will begin to lose control of each zone in this column by 1, going all the way back to your starting zone. For each turn, you do not have a monster in this column. So, let's say for the sake of argument that you had a monster here, you moved him here, and so you lost this, and the whole turn went by, and you lost, and your next main phase, and you lost this zone, but you have a monster back here, right? You start your next turn, and you have a monster. You have a monster here. You have control of this zone right here, but you don't have. But your next monster forward is in a completely different column, right? You would lose access to this. You would lose control of this zone here, but you would keep the rest of the column because you already have a monster right here holding the rest of that column. So you will lose zones naturally if you don't have a monster in these zones. But that is the general point. But those are basically the only ways that you lose. Those are the two main ways you could lose influence. You could lose control. The other way that you can lose influence is... Oh, my dog wants to come inside. Be right back. Be right back. Anyway, okay, I'm back. So the other way you can lose influence zones is by flanking. Let's use the blue circle right here. Okay, you control this zone and you control all the zones behind it, right? Let's say this red circle monster got behind the blue circle monster. Let's say it got behind there, and your opponent plays a spell card to gain influence, like how you normally would gain influence. Then every zone behind the red monster, going all the way back to your opponent's starting zone, going all the way back to the edge of your opponent's starting zone, would then come under your opponent's control, including the spaces that the blue monster was standing on. So, flanking, if the priority of who is in control of these zones, right, is the last person to play a spell card in this column, and it goes back from the furthest point you have your monster out back to your starting zone. So if the furthest point you have out is past your opponent's monster and you are behind them, you can take their zones from them by doing the normal ways you gain influence, and they lose control of those points. So that's one of those are the three ways you can lose, and you can lose control of zones, and those are the three ways you gain control of zones. I may have more ideas on that later, but no, right now that's the basis. That right now those are the basics, and I think those three keep enough, have enough going on with them that it makes it interesting, right? Like it keeps it interesting. There's enough play around it to keep it going. So I was talking about earlier. I was talking about how I removed the effect of field spells, right? I've only removed the effects of seven field spells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 field spells. Every other field spell works the same. Every other field spell in the game works exactly the same as normal. Well, it doesn't work the same as normal. They have their effects. Let's say it like that. Every other field spell has their effects, but these 7 are your main field spell cards. And I'll get to how the other field spells work in a second, but we're gonna talk about the main ones right now. So the main 7 that you have, the main 7 zones that you have, the main 7 fields that you have are forest, wasteland, mountains, Sogen, Umi, Yami, and Luminous Sparks. I added Luminous Sparks because there was no light-based field zone from the original set, which I thought was fucking weird. So it goes, and what monsters they benefit are divided by these as well. For instance, your field spell, your field's forest benefits insects, plants, and beasts. Wastelands benefit dinosaurs, zombies, rocks. Mountains benefit dragons, winged beasts, thunders, and pyros. Which I added pyros to that list because it didn't affect them before. Now it does. And to point out, the original fields, the type of what monster is affected by the field spell pretty much lines up with what it affects originally. The only 2 exceptions are that mountain affects pyros, and luminous sparks affects fairies. Mountains affects dragons, winged beasts, thunders, pyros. Plains, or Sogen, affects warriors and beast warriors. Umi affects fish, sea serpents, and aqua. And Luminous Sparks affects fairies, and Yami affects fiends. Spellcasters are in their own category. They get affected by field types based on what attribute of spellcaster that they are. For instance, wind spellcasters and fire spellcasters both benefit from mountains. Earth spellcasters benefit from plains and forest. And water spellcasters benefit from water. Darkness benefit from Yami. Light benefit from luminous sparks. And so these affect. They have their own effects based upon what kind of magician that they are, what kind of spellcaster that they are. But we'll get to that when we get to that. We're on fields right now. So, the original field spells, Yami, Umi, all the ones I just mentioned, they cannot be destroyed or negated by any card in the game. They cannot be destroyed or negated. They cannot be removed from play. They cannot be banished. You cannot affect these cards. What field you choose to be playing on is what is is part of the board state, and you cannot remove it. You can't remove it for any reason. So the only way to stop your opponent from gaining the benefit of field spells is to remove the areas that they control. You can affect the areas they control, like you could normal field spells. And that's only in no man's land. This does not count for starting zones. Starting zones are completely immune to anything. But no man's land, you can affect them. For instance, if you have Mystical Space Typhoon, you can destroy one zone of control on the field as if it was a field spell card. So you can affect them like that. but that's only in no man's land. And that does not destroy the field zone. That does not destroy the field spell. That just destroys the area that they control. That removes the control from what they are standing on. And that's the only thing that does. All right, so I just want to make that clear. I want to make that clear. The field spells are here to stay. They go nowhere. They're basically omnipresent at all times. Now, what about the other field spells, for instance? Because there are more field spells than just those, right? There's Gaia Power, there's the Fire Mountain, or whatever the fuck that one's called. The Chorus Choir, or whatever that's called. There's a bunch of other ones, right? There's Toon World. Like what do they do? Like how are they affected by all this, right? Well, as it stands, they behave like normal field spells. You play them in the normal field spell zone, and they affect the whole board, but only the areas that you control. How they work in this version of the game is that basically they overlay over the top of the field spell zone that you have selected. They do not override any of the effects from the field spell zone you have in control right now. For instance, Umi, if you play the field spell Gaia Power, for instance, right? You empower Earth monsters, and you have Umi on the field. All your monsters in the points that you control will still be under the effects of the benefit of your field spell that you control. They'd still be under the effects of Umi. So they would still get the 500 attack points, and they would still have their monster effects on. In addition to that, though, when you play a field spell, there would also any Earth monsters would gain the effects of Gaia Power in the areas that you control. So, I don't know why the fuck you would have an Earth monster with your Umi monsters, but let's just say for the sake of argument that you do, right? Let's just say for the sake of argument that there's an Earth fish monster somewhere, right? There's some Earth sea serpent somewhere that we're just fucking all unaware of, all right? Then it would gain the benefit of both. And these field spells operate under the same rules that the regular field spells do. So for instance, you play a field spell and you gain influence in the exact same way you would if you played one of the normal 7 field spells. However, there is a difference. These field spells can be destroyed by card effects. These field spells, when you play them, can be destroyed by card effect. So your opponent can Mystical Space Typhoon them, they can dispel them, they can target and destroy them through any card effects. They can get rid of the field effect, of the overlaid field. You, however, do not lose any field control by losing these cards. If this card is destroyed, all you do is lose the effect of that field spell. There are no other negatives than that. So that's basically how I've decided to handle field spells. Is that any field spell that does not fall under the original 7 that you choose from the field spell behave like normal, and they fall under the same rules as normal field spells do. I keep saying normal field spell, and that's going to confuse people. They fall under the same rules that the original 7 field spells work under for the purposes of this game, but they can be destroyed. That's the key difference. They can be destroyed. But yeah, but I think it's a very good way of handling it. It makes field spells more usable, right? Because not only are they not only do they give you attack boost, which is basically the thing in the game that doesn't really matter at this point. The thing in the game that even back then in original Yu-Gi-Oh, it never really fucking came up. It never really mattered because getting 300 attack points didn't fucking matter. And even getting 500 attack points didn't really matter that much. But with this, now they give you control in no man's land. They give you fields of influence on the board that allow you to summon stronger monsters, allow you to get access to your effects, allow you to get access to this, that, and the other thing, right? Like, it makes them a lot tougher. No, not tougher. No, tougher is the wrong word. It makes them more valuable. Like, you would run field spell cards like, what the fuck was the other one? What was the water one? I wrote it down here somewhere. Like, if you were playing Umi, I keep saying Umi, but I just like saying Umi. Umi. If you were playing, Umi Ruka, for instance, to overlay over regular Umi, there's a reason to play that now, other than just getting 500 extra attack points for all your water monsters. Now, all the monsters on your side of the field, you get control. You get points of control for them. It also, it gives you control. That's basically it. It gives you control. At the cost of being more fragile than your regular field spell, than your regular field cards. Which I think it's fair trade-off. I think it's more than the fair trade-off. And I can see more people playing them, right? And having more value, especially with like Toon World. But we'll get to tunes in a bit. We'll get to tunes in a bit. What else I say? Yeah, so what's this effect? What's this? Ah, this is monster effects. Yes, so now we're in monster effects. So yeah, now we're in monster effects. Man, we kind of flew through those 2 seconds. I thought I had more. I had more to talk about. We're kind of in monster effects now, which is fine. We can talk about monster effects. I'm still kind of changing them. Like ambush, I was gonna change, and I'll tell you what I'm thinking about ambush. From what I have written down here, but I'll have it. But I do have it flipped over to basically. I do have it decided on what types are gonna have what kind of effects. That I do have decided. So, for instance, as I've been referencing multiple times, beasts have fleet and ambush. Fleet, being so basically I have a list here of all the types in the game, what special keywords they have that tell you what effects that they get based on their type. And then I have a list here of basically all the types I'm writing out of what they do. But so we'll get to that. We'll go through the list. All right. So beasts have fleet and ambush. Fleet, as I mentioned before, is a special rule that increases your monster's move speed. It increases it by half the level of the monster, rounding down. So let's use Silverwolf as an example. Silverwolf is a level 3 monster. He would be able to move 3 spaces. But with Fleet, he can actually move 4 spaces because half of level 3 is 1.5, rounding down is 1. So he gets to move 4 spaces. Ambush is another rule that I have been thinking about. So flip monsters work differently in this game as well, because everything's based on movement. Ambush kind of works like the same as flip effects do. Flip effects, basically, you place a monster face down in a zone that you control, right? You cannot place a monster that you've already summoned in the face down defense position. They can only place it face up defense position. You can also play any monster in face up or face down defense position. Right, so starting off with that. So that's a change I made from the game. So you can play it in face up defense position if you want to. Flip effect monsters now. You can place them, when you place them face down in your zones, they do not activate when they are attacked, though they can activate when they are attacked. But the additional way that they can activate is if your opponent moves within the space of the flip effect of the flip monster, it flips face up. So for instance, and this area that it controls, the area that you move into to trigger it, is based on the level of the monster. So, for instance, Man-Eater Bug, famous flip effect monster. You place Man-Eater Bug face down, let's say the blue circle is Man-Eater Bug, right? If your opponent moves anywhere within 2 spaces of Man-Eater Bug, because Man-Eater Bug is level 2, Man-Eater Bug activates, it flips face up. Well, it doesn't activate, it flips face up, and then its effect activates. And you can target any monster within 2 spaces of Man-Eater Bug, because its effect only works within the range, within the, hello, Teddy!
Yay, 7 or 10 months in a row.
7 or 10 months in a row. Could be 7, it could be 10, who knows? How you doing, Teddy? I'm yapping about my Yugioh, if you didn't know. But yeah, so Man-Eater Bug's effect would activate based upon where the monster is in relation to it. He would flip face up, his effect would activate, and you can target any monster within 2 spaces, because flip effects I'm limiting by how strong the monster is. You're alive? That's good. That's good. Yeah, you can only target a monster that's within its level, that's within its range, and its range is determined by its level. So, Man-Eater Bug, level 2. It can only target a monster that's 2 spaces away from it. And then it would destroy it. Ambush works on the same principle. Basically, Ambush allows you to take any monster, any beast monster, or any monster that has this rule, and you're allowed at the end of your MA phase 1 to flip it face down, and you can remove it from the board. This is the additional effect of Ambush. If you have, what I'm thinking about Ambush, right? Because Ambush originally was going to be, you place the monster face down, it becomes a flip effect monster, your opponent moves within the range of the monster, you can flip it face up, and your opponent, the opponent that moves within the range that triggered the effect loses 1,000 attack points for activating the effects of Ambush, and if that monster reaches 0 attack points, it dies. I was thinking of doing something different with that. So, what I was thinking was, you place the monster face down, right? Then, if there is another monster face down on the board that then flips up on the following turn, you can move that monster to an adjacent space next to that monster. So let's say, for instance, there's an ambush monster here, and your other ambush monster's over here, right? Your opponent moves within range of the first ambush monster and triggers it. Your monster then can move over to this space right next to it and join in the ambush against the monster that triggered the first ambush monster. And what this does is that you still get the effects of reducing the attack points by 1,000, but you get to reduce the attack points per monster that's ambushing that monster. So what this does is so if this monster ambushes, that's minus 1,000. This monster comes over here, he ambushes as well. That's another 1,000 attack points. So then, basically making beasts work in this theme of being pack animals. They hunt in packs, they hunt in groups. So when your opponent moves into a certain space to trigger an ambush, multiple monsters are jumping them and making them lose attack points. And then when they reach 0 attack points, they die. They get overwhelmed by the ambush. That's kind of the thematics of what I'm working on, of what I'm thinking about the rule ambush is. And kind of how I want beasts, and kind of the way I'm pushing beasts to play in this different version of Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Where beasts are, especially with the original 4 set, a lot of beasts are not very strong. So making them a type that likes to work in groups, that likes to work in groups and take down larger monsters by attacking it with numbers, as opposed to that likes to attack them with numbers and attack them in surprise rather than take them in a straight up fight. I think is a more interesting way to play beasts in this version of Yu-Gi-Oh, and like it keeps the beasts being distinct, and it keeps them distinct and having an interesting play style that you can build around, right? The next type of monster, I'm sure you're gonna be confused at this point, Teddy. Joining in at this point where I'm mid stride, almost 2 hours in. The next effect I was going to talk about, right? Let me just remove some of these circles and squiggles. Let me just remove some of these. Make it a bit more clean in here. There we go. Excuse me, give me some credit. Oh, yeah? I'm 100% following along? Cool. Excellent. I'm glad you are. Because now we're on insects. Insects are probably the ones who are even in the... Because right now, as I said earlier, right? The sets that we're working with right now, the set of Yu-Gi-Oh cards we're working with are the original 4 sets of Yu-Gi-Ohs that released for the American TCG. So that's Legend of Blue Eyes, Spell Rulers, Metal Raiders, and Pharaoh's Servants. Insects in these were incredibly weak, and are arguably in Yu-Gi-Oh! In the modern age, they're still pretty fucking weak. So I decided to kind of lean into that weakness, right? Instead of going strong with insects, you go wide with insects. Insects get the rules of duplicate, ambush, and poison. So what is duplicate? A duplicate is basically what the word says. When you summon this monster to the field, you make a duplicate of that monster that's the same level, it's the same attacks, it has the same effects, and it's the same attribute and type as the original monster. Like Magic Gathering, low cost, easy to get 40 of them on board. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm going for here, where you fill the board with a swarm of insects, and you fill the board with a swarm of insects. So every insect you summons duplicate insects of that same monster, dependent upon the level. For instance, if you summon a enemy has 1 powerful monster that can block 1 monster, I have 33 doing 1 damage. Yeah, pretty much. So for instance, if you have a level 1 monster and you're using duplicate, right? It creates 3 tokens of that monster. Level 1 to 2 create 3 tokens. 3 and 4 create... Oh no, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Sorry. 1 to 2 create 2 tokens, so you would have 3 monsters on the field. That's what I'm trying to say. So you would have the original monster plus 2 tokens. Am I saying that right? How'd I write it down? Hold on, let me talk about it right now. I'm speaking out my ass here. I'm going off what I remember. I have my notebook right here. I'm just not reading it. That's breath. That's conceal, armaments, cleave, conceal. It already says concealed. No, it's considered. Crush, duplicate. Here we go. Duplicate. And I'm in a chart on the other side of the board. No, it was 3 tokens. I was right. 1-star monster makes 2 copies. 2-star monsters make 2 copies. 3-star make 3 copies. No. It's in descending order. Because the stronger the monster is, the less tokens I want you to get. So, for instance, the opposite then. Yeah, so level 1 and 2 monsters make 3 tokens. So you would have 4 tokens on the field. So you have 4 monsters on the field off 1 summon. 3 and 4 make 2 tokens. So you would have 3 monsters on the field with 3 or more. 99 stars get 0.1 copy. No, I have anything that's level 7 or up just makes 1 copy. 5 or up makes 1 copy. So you're only running around with 1 other perfectly ultimate great moth if you manage to summon it. Which honestly, in this version of Yu-Gi-Oh, with the board being how it is and how long it is, you actually could summon perfectly ultimate great moth relatively easily, I think. Because the only way your opponent could get it is with either with ranged attack monsters, monster with ranged attacks, or spell cards to destroy it. So that's pretty neat. That's pretty neat to consider. Also, so as insects want to go wide, right? So the weaker the monster is, the more tokens it summons. They also have access to poison. Now, poison's a rule I'm still debating. I'm still debating on how exactly I want to do this rule. The original idea I had for this, right? The original intent was basically you roll a die if your monster attacks. On the roll of a 6, it automatically destroys the monster and no battle damage, and you take no battle damage from that monster's destruction. That's what I was thinking. But I'm not sure if that's too strong or too weak. On the one hand, you can take your 1 beetle, and then out of 1 out of 6 chance, you can destroy a blue eyes white dragon. On the other hand, it's a 1 out of 6 chance. But I guess if you're going for the numbers game, you're just going to roll that dice over and over and over again until you get that 6. I guess that would be the way it would go. But you're also taking damage when you attack, and you don't poison the monster. So, which is why I also gave insects ambush, so that they could set themselves face down. They could come over. Oh, by the way, tokens can set themselves face down in this game mode as well. I'm just pointing that out. In this game mode, tokens put themselves face down too, through the ambush effect. And using ambush and poison together, I'm wondering if that's too strong or just right. I'm still debating on that. I'm still debating on that. I'm not entirely sure. So insects are still... Duplicate is definitely the one I want to get. Duplicate is definitely the one that a must-have, definitely the way I want them to go, with it being wide instead of boosting in strength. I'm just wondering what poison should be. Maybe it's maybe poison should be that you reduce a monster's attack points for each monster that attacks with it. Maybe you take reduced battle damage, right? And then go beetle attack, take 500 attack points off. A beetle attack, take 500 attack points off. Big beetle attack, take 500 attack points off. Or maybe just do a poison attack attempt. You know what? You know what? I got an idea. I got an idea. What if for poison, instead of an attack, you do an action. At the end of your main phase, if you're within attack range of a monster, this being 1 space away from you unless you have a ranged attack, right? You can then take an action to attempt to poison your opponent's monster. You roll a d6, and on a 4 or more, you poison that monster, and that monster loses 500 attack points. And you can make this action for each insect monster that is near that monster. So instead of outright destroying the monster, you just swarm the monster with a ton of weak insects and poison the creature until it's weak enough for you to just swing over. I think, you know what? That's a good idea. I like that. We're keeping that. I'm gonna write that down. Poison. I'm short-handed for the moment. Poison. Because that also is in keeping with that's also in keeping with the whatchamacallit, the perfectly ultimate great moth. Remember when the perfectly ultimate great moth in the it wasn't perfectly ultimate, it was just a regular great moth at that point. Remember when it had the effect when Gaia was in the air with it, when it's airborne with it? That it had the stupid fucking scales that were coming off it that were poisoning Gaia every second? Not every turn, every fucking second. That which I don't know how the fuck you calculate that in the card game, but anyway. Leaving that part aside, it does work within theme of that, of what I'm trying to do with this card game, which is basically try to emulate the Duelist Kingdom, the earlier games of Yu-Gi-Oh, and actually make rules out of it that are feasible, as opposed to fucking nonsense. Like, take poison damage lose 100 attack points every second. Which is just fucking insane. Anyway, so yeah, okay, so that's how insects will work. I don't think they need ambush then. They could probably lose ambush, to be honest, then. I think they can lose ambush then. I don't think they need it. If they have this poison, right? Then if poison works this way, that would be plenty strong, because that basically makes your weight of bodies translate into actual killing power, as opposed to ambush, which does the same thing, but a lot more. But stacking up the two on top of each other, I think, would be a bit much. So having poison and ambush, both things where groups of monsters use their effects to reduce the attack points of your opposing monsters. So Magic Gathering, there was, way back when I started, a set of cards. They were called slivers. I believe slivers are still a thing in Magic the Gathering. My friends talk about slivers all the time. Well, not all the time, but slivers has come up quite a few times when they talk about Magic the Gathering. So I'm quite certain it's still a thing. Maybe not in the way that you think that it is, but I'm pretty sure that is a thing. But I think this is interesting because it allows two different type of monsters to have a similar kind of effects, but in a different way that it's expressed and a different way that it plays out. That makes it more interesting. They're just not the same? Oh, okay. How were they back in the day then? And while I move on to Beast Warriors, you type that out while I move on to Beast Warriors. Beast Warriors are also one I'm still kind of thinking of. A lot of these monsters, I haven't gotten around to exactly what all their stuff does yet, so bear with me. Beast Warriors are one of those types that I haven't gotten around to yet. They have Fleet, Rend, and Frenzy. Fleet, I've already described. I already told you about that. That's half your movement. It's half your move speed. That's not half your move speed. It's when you move your monster, you can add half your level, rounding down to your monster's move speed, to your monster's total move speed. Rend, I'm not entirely sure. the original way, they would buff another, debuff enemies, minions, and then they also hit X, seal life based on how many slivers were on the field. They would clone X slivers, with X being the amount of damage dealt this turn. They gain X damage and X toughness based on the slivers that was on the field. Oh, okay. Okay. So it's kind of like more of a, so insects kind of play like a scuffed sliver then, is what you're getting at. Which kinda. Honestly, I think I'm gonna drop Rend because I'm not sure what Rend should be. The original idea of Rend was like, your Beast Warrior attacks a monster, roll a d6, and it allows it to destroy a monster that it's battling. Like, it inflicts a mortal wound upon a lucky blow on the creature and gets a mortal wound on it and kills it. But honestly, I don't really like that. The more I think about it, the more I don't really like it. It's a bit too random. So I think I'm gonna get rid of Rend. I'm gonna keep Frenzy though, because I do like Frenzy. Frenzy is a neat idea. So Frenzy is basically when your monster dies, you get to roll a dice, and on a 4 or more, he gets to attack one last time. Basically, what he's doing is then you have morphing slivers, will let you change one class of monster from this to a class of that class. So I would choose my Stag Beetle, and that was a 1 mana XX monster. Oh, you make it a sliver? What was I saying? Oh yeah, Frenzy. So it makes one last attack before he dies, basically, if you roll a 4 or more on a die. What this translates into is that he, before he dies, can wound a monster. What wounding does is basically it reduces the move speed and the attack points of the monster that battled it. So basically when, let's say, Minotaur dies to Blue Eyes, right? Minotaur gets a Frenzy attack, and Frenzy wounds the Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes loses 500 attack points and loses half its move speed until the end of your next turn. Basically, through a bestial Herculean effort, he gets he wounds whatever creature he was fighting with. Also, if the creature is killed at range, it gets to make its full move towards the nearest enemy monster and do its frenzy attack. If it can't reach any target, then it doesn't matter. Then you don't roll frenzy and the monster just dies. Make it into a silver, and it would then get all the buffs from slivers, and it would also get its own bonus of XX based on monsters on the field. So double down on bonus. You post 40/40, gets trampled. Well, that sounds nasty. Well, that sounds fucking nasty. Well, would you know what, Teddy? That sounds fucking horrific. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get rid of Rend. Yeah, no more Rend. Just Fleet and Frenzy. I think that's enough. And I like that, of having the warrior monster, the warrior beast who's faster than a normal warrior, but has its feral side to it when it's pushed beyond its limits, right? This was way long ago. It sounds old, mainly because I have not heard of I've not heard of anyone using Stag Beetle in a long time. I can tell it's old because I don't think anyone's used Stag Beetle in forever. So that's how I want Beast Warriors to work. They run fast, they hit hard, and they have frenzy. Warriors, I have these ones. I do kind of have a good idea of how I want them to function. Warriors have armament, and they have united. Basically, what these two rules are: armament when you play a warrior monster, you get to search. The armament effect activates on the warrior monster. You get to search one equip spell from your deck and add it to your hand. Basically, any warrior worth his salt is going to be going to the battlefield with his weapon. So, warriors get to always search their weapon from their deck. Get to search their weapon out and equip it to their monster, or you can equip it to any monster on the field if you want. This gets you a reliable way of getting equip cards for field effects, and it also makes equip cards better because instead of just happening to draw any of the equipped spell cards, you can just go, oh well, drawing a 300 attack point equip spell card kind of sucks. Now you can just search that 300 attack point equip spell card, or the fucking Axe of Despair if you want, and just go straight from there. And then they also have United, which this is just me basically saying United We Stand and turning it into a monster effect as opposed to a card effect. Basically, if your warrior is within one space of another warrior, you get 300 attack points for each warrior that is within one space of your warrior. Basically emphasizing that warriors work in formations. They're smarter. Warriors work in formations. Warriors use tactics. Warriors use things that a lot of other type of monsters don't do. And they also work together. Basically making warriors into a kind of like shield block Death Star formation sort of thing, where you rally around your big champion, your big warrior, and he buffs, and they all work together and they all buff each other. And I think that makes it a little fun. Makes it a little fun idea. I think I'm going to remove United We Stand from the game because I don't think it's in the first 4 sets, but if it is, I'm going to remove it because that's going to be banned immediately because that's going to get out of hand real fucking fast. So that's how warriors work. Warriors get their weapons, and warriors get bonuses from being next to other warriors. Which again, it's different than the it's similar to other monsters where beasts like to play with a bunch of other beasts. Insects like to go wide with a bunch of insects. But it's different in the way that it's not wearing down the opponent. It's warriors inspiring each other to give themselves more attack points. To give each other more attack points. And that's I think that's a more it's a fun way of having monsters working with each other in tandem that's different than the other ones, but still that's different and unique, but still similar, right? I mean, I'm just kind of rambling and walking in circles here, but that's basically the idea of what I'm trying to do with warriors. Dragons are the fun ones. Dragons, on the other hand, are fun because I gave them fucking everything. I didn't give them everything. I gave them 3 rules. They have cleave attacks. Basically, a cleave attack is, say this is the Blue Eyes White Dragon right here. This red circle right here. Blue Eyes with a cleave attack can attack any 3 circles or any 3 squares in front of it, behind it, or to the side of it. It's always in 3s, but it attacks all 3 of those zones. So what this means is, let's say all these areas were full of monsters, right? Let's say all 3 of these had monsters in there. Blue Eyes would do a cleave attack. The cleave attack would basically be that all 3 monsters are being attacked by Blue Eyes White Dragons. You would then resolve each of those attacks one at a time starting with the highest attack point monster, or the highest level of monster, or the highest attack point monster. And if it's a tie, then your opponent gets to choose which one resolves first. And then working your way down from there. So let's just say there's level 5, level 4, level 3. The blue eyes would resolve its attack against the level 5, then the level 4, and then the level 3. In just a straight line like that. The next thing that the blue eyes has is a breath attack. Because it's a dragon, of course it has a breath attack. All dragons have a breath attack. So what basically allows the blue eyes to do is it can attack in a straight line, either out to the front, diagonal, out to the side, or behind it. And you draw a line from the monster out equal to the level of the monster attacking. So blue eyes, level 8, 8 spaces out from the monster. Anything in that line, any monster in that line is considered to have been attacked. Now, I'm going to note, I said any monster. This is going to be your monsters. This is going to be your opponent's monsters. It attacks every monster in that line. But unlike a regular ranged attack, where a ranged attack is just a normal attack, but it can hit creatures at range. So let's say blue circle here, this blue circle right here. Let's say that it had a ranged attack. It was level 3 monsters. It could choose any monster that's within 3 spaces of it and attack it. Blue eyes can attack everything that's in that line. The ranged attack does not pierce. It does not attack multiple monsters. It just hits one monster. But a breath attack hits multiple monsters. The blue eyes also has fly, which fly has its own set of rules. Basically, when you fly, you suffer from no negative effects of fields. You have evasion, and what was the next thing you have? Oh, what was it? What I write down? I wrote down fly, so I know I have fly down here somewhere. Fly, there it is. Yes, it can't be bound, so it can't suffer from any bind attacks. It can't, it has evasion, and it does not suffer the effects of any negative effects from fields. There are negative effects if you're on a field that is not of the type that your monster prefers. That's not the type of your monster. For instance, playing on forest when you're a dragon is a negative field for you because you prefer to play on, because your field zone is mountains. Which we'll get to the negatives in a bit. But flying ignores that. But your monster, it has to move that turn. To have evasion, to have negatives, to ignore bind, to ignore effects like bind, it has to move that turn. And it also cannot be in defense position, face up or face down. So if it gets switched, if it gets hit with, say, block attack, if Blue Eyes gets hit with block attack and turns to defense mode, right? It loses the effects of fly until you move it, until you can move it your next turn. So it doesn't get evasion, it suffers negatives, and it can be bound. So yeah. Dragons get a lot. But they're dragons, they should have a couple things. They should have a couple things, but they don't get really any benefit. They don't get any, like, boosting effects, I guess you should say. Unlike the beasts, the insects, and the beast warriors and the warriors, who all have effects that support each other, dragons don't have effects that support each other. They're just raw power. Which I think is thematic for a dragon. Dragons don't really support each other. Dragons in any tale and any time that you see any dragons, in any medium, they are always solitary creatures that are more worried about what they control, what they have, and who else, and what they can take from other people. And I think that the 3 effects of breathe, cleave, and fly are just like the 3 like thematic things of a dragon, the things everyone thinks about. There's a nasty dragon that even Pokemon Dragons are strong versus dragon. Exactly. There's a nasty dragon that if it did damage would also destroy lands. Yeah, like so I think that having dragons have effects like this where they have their breath attack, they can cleave monsters around them, and they can fly is like that. There's the repertoire of a dragon. That's the repertoire you would expect a dragon to have. Any dragon to have. Also, hello, Roxy. How long you've been lurking here? And then we're on the plants. But dragons are pretty self-evident. So we're moving on to plants, which have an interesting thing about them. One, they have regenerate. Regenerate, as I was going to have to be the rule, is once per game, per card. Just got here, been vomiting and sleeping all day. Oh no! Are you gonna be all? Are you all right? Are you ill? Or you just eat something bad? Do you have like the fever, or you just like eat something bad? That's unfortunate. I hate to hear that. I need some water. Speaking of drinking. Hungover? Oh god. The fun kind. Oh, I'll be right back. Okay, so the fun kind of vomiting. I'm sure you feel great right now. So plant monsters. Plant monsters have regeneration. Regeneration means that basically once per turn per card, once per game per card, not once per turn, once per game. If a plant monster is destroyed by battle, they can come back at the start of your main phase, of your next main phase. Of your next main phase 1, I should say. So, one of your plant monsters is destroyed, it comes back at the start of your next main phase. If it leaves the field again, it is destroyed. It does not come back. It's not banished. It's not removed from play or anything like that. But it does not regenerate again. And this is per monster. So, or per copy of a monster, I should say. I'm not really sure how exactly to phrase it, like per copy of per monster. So I'm not entirely sure how to phrase it, but that's basically what regeneration does. Overgrowth is another rule that they have. Basically, what a plant does, it has rock-type monsters and plant-type monsters basically serve as blockers, pretty much. They are monsters that you can place on the board, and they cut off areas of the board that your opponent can't move past until they deal with that monster. Was basically how it's gonna have rock-type monsters and plant-type monsters be in this version of the game. So let's say this circle right here, this one I'm placing right here. This one is our plant monster for today. All right. So overgrowth, let's say it's a level 3 plant monster. Overgrowth is that this monster has, how to phrase it? It has tendrils out in 3 spaces around it. So over to here, not 3 spaces, sorry. It has control over the spaces equal to half its level, rounding up. So this plant type monster is level 3. Half its level would be 1.5. Rounding up is 2. So 2 spaces away from this monster, it has control over these areas. What that essentially means is, this is not control in the case of influence. What this is that your monster is counting as occupying these spaces. It cannot be, these spaces, it counts as occupying these spaces. So your opponent cannot come into these spaces without destroying these parts of the monster. If they destroy the part of the monster out in the other spaces, it does not destroy the original monster. Basically, think of them as tokens. They're tokens out. It creates tokens out in other parts of the field called tendril tokens, basically. And these tendril tokens block areas for your opponent to that your opponent can't go through. Hello, Queen. Oh, is headpat deciding not to work? Insane. Hello. There we go. There we go. I'm just explaining the game. I always break stuff. It happens. It happens, Queen. It happens to the best of us. I'm just explaining the game I've been thinking about for a few days. So, how does the plant token, how does the plant vine token block this space? Keep babbling. I'm babbling. Oh, I'm babbling. It does not physically block the space like rock monsters do. Rock monsters, it physically blocks the space. You can't walk through it. The vine token, you can walk over. Your monster can walk past it. However, when it walks on the same space that a vine token is on, it triggers a bind. Bind basically, I believe I say you roll a dice for that. Let me see. I'm not sure if it's just an action you take, or it's just that just happens, or you have to roll a dice. Let me make sure. That's frenzy. That's crush. Bind. Here we go. Yes, there we go. No. So, the vine token can make a bind reaction, which basically, if your opponent moves on that space, which I should probably call it something else, because I bind as another rule as well, so I need to call it something else. But basically, when your opponent walks on that space, it makes a bind. When they're bound, they can't move, their effects are negated, and they can't attack any other monster other than the monster that has bound it. So plant monsters, basically, they reach out with their tendrils. How I imagine them working in this game is that they reach out with their tendrils. They basically put up a little trap across the entire floor of the arena, up to the level of the monster that it is. When your opponent moves close to that monster or those vines, it binds them and holds them in place so they can't move away from it. Which then, if they also have the rule, the last rule that plant monsters have is crush. If your opponent does not either release himself from the bind or kill the monster that is binding them by the end of your next main phase, when it has been bound, you can then do a crush action on it. Which basically, as the crush action works, your monster's attack is increased to times 2, and you perform a crush action against it. Your opponent's attack points are reduced by your upgraded attack points, and if your opponent's attack points reach 0, that monster is destroyed. So basically, so what happens is if you are bound and you do not get out, it crushes you, which means it's basically it's doing what exactly it says. The vines are crushing you. they get ×2 attack points, and then they compare that to your attack points and reduce your attack points by the ×2 attack points of the plant monster. And if you're too weak to get out of that, if you're reduced to 0 attack points, i.e. you've been exhausted enough that the vines are able to overwhelm you, you die. But again, like it's a relatively easy thing to avoid. It's a relatively it's I guess it's not really relatively easy to avoid. It's fairly easy to deal with, right? Because your opponent has to basically choose to not attack the vines or the thing that's binding it for a whole turn. Basically, it punishes your opponent if they put one of their monsters out of position or put them in a very stupid position where they can't support their monster and it's destroyed by the vines. It deters them from being reckless or trying to move past the vines or past the plant monster and just ignore it. Because then it grabs you and then it crushes you. Which I think which I like the idea of blocker monsters. I think they're fun. There's only 2 types of creatures in this game that can do crush actions. Smash. Yeah, smash. There are only 2 types of monsters in this game that can do bind and crush actions. One is plant. No, actually just 3, because sea serpents can do it too. But the only ones that can do it are no, actually technically 4, but we haven't gotten to them yet. Anyway, not important. Well, I have it right now. No, it's only 3. It's only 3. Sea serpents, plants, and fiends are the only ones that can bind and crush. Fiends are a fun one. Fiends, I basically took inspiration from the Duel of Darkness from the Duelist Kingdom when he's fighting against Panic or whatever the hell his name was. The guy who had his Castle of Dark Illusions. Because what would happen is basically every time he would attack, the monster that would be swept up in the darkness by his fiend monsters would then be crushed. And it would be crushed and broken. And I kind of wanted to emulate that with fiends. So I gave them, and they also liked being in the darkness where you couldn't see them. And they would attack from the darkness. So I gave them the abilities of Conceal, where they can't be targeted by card effects. Was it targeted by card effects? Let me see what I do for Conceal. That's evasion. That's Dinophobia. We don't care about that ability just yet. That's Duplicate. That's Crush. I have my little notebook here that has all my stuff in it. Conceal. That's what it is. Yeah, the concealed monsters are hard to hit, and what it is you're not that you can't target them. Your effects and your monster's attacks have a chance to miss. You would roll a d6, and basically on a 3 up, if you roll less than a 3, your attack or card effect fizzles. Basically, your attack completely whiffs and you missed them, and they don't take any damage. They don't take any damage, and any card effects that had to target them is not even negated. It just fizzles. It just fizzles as if its card requirements have not been fulfilled. Then they also have Crush and Bind. Bind being that they grab onto you, and the same effects as the Vine binds happen, where you can't move, your effects are negated, and you cannot attack any other monster other than the monster that is binding you. By the monster that's being bound, that is. And that's kind of why how I wanted Fiends to play, where they're concealed, They're basically just being sneaky. They're being sneaky evasive. They're just trying to... They run up to you, basically, and you're through the darkness. They grab you, and then they just try to break your bones. They smash you. And that is... that's how fiends play, basically. Dinosaurs have regeneration, stomp, cleave. So they have the same kind of cleave attack that dragons do. Wish someone would smash me. I'm sure we'll all come to it. Sure, all of us will be smashed one day as I sit here in my lazy recliner. I'm sure we'll all be smashed one day. So regeneration, same as plants. If it's destroyed, it comes back. Stomp is the only different rule that dinosaurs has. Stomp allows you to increase your attack points ×2 during the damage step only. We will all come. Finish your sentence. I did finish my sentence. We will all come. That's it. That's a whole sentence right there. That's it. There is nothing else. There is nothing else. You said 2 after. I say a lot of things. I say a lot of things. You can't prove anything. I want to know what we are coming to. Polish punk metal. Zombies! Hits the clip button. Zombies! So, zombies have the same united rule that warriors do. So the more of them that are right next to each other within one space of each other, the more attack points they get. They also have the rule undead. So, as long as they're within, if they die within their fields, a zone that they control, a zone that you control, or Call of the Haunted is on the field, the zombie returns from the graveyard at the end of the battle phase. All zombies that are destroyed during the battle phase come back. Yeah. That's how undead works. It works basically exactly how the undead works in the how Call of the Haunted worked in the anime. All the zombies are basically unkillable by the battle phase. As long as they're, again, within the field zone, right? Yeah. As long as they're within the field zone, and as long as they are under the effects of Call of the Haunted, they cannot be killed by battle. But they have one negative effect to counteract this, and the more of them that there are, the more powerful they are. They have one effect to counteract this. They are soulless. They are the only monsters with the special rule soulless, and they are the only monsters with the special rule undead. So soulless means that they have no direction. If your zombie is not within range of a spellcaster of the appropriate type, so it would have to be a dark spellcaster, then your zombie attack points are reduced to its normal attack point amount, and it can only move one space per turn. So basically, your monster will not get the benefit of its field attack point bonuses. It will not gain any additional attacks from United, and it will not be able to move its full distance if there is not a spellcaster nearby to hold their hand a little bit. They're zombies. They're not smart. They need a bit of direction. They need a little hand holding. They gotta be like, all right, go on, keep going. Or Pumpkin, the King of Pumpkins, by the way. I should point out that Pumpkin, the King of Pumpkins, also will fulfill this requirement. We will all come. Yes, exactly. But I'm very excited for that because I also have the I'm changing the rules for Call of the Haunted. Call of the Haunted is going to be made a legendary card, and I'm changing its rules. No longer will it be return one monster from the graveyard to the field and destroy that monster if this card is destroyed. No longer will it be that effect. Its effect now is, while this card remains on the field, every monster that is sent from field, every monster that is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard becomes a zombie monster and return that monster to the field at the end of the battle phase. So every monster that is destroyed by battle while Call of the Haunted is on the field becomes a zombie. So Dark Magician destroyed by battle, it's a zombie now. Blue Eyes destroyed by battle while Call of the Haunted is on the field, it's a zombie now. It's a zombie now. It has the rule, and they gain the rules. They lose the other types of rules that they have. So Blue Eyes loses its dragon type rules, but it gains the rules of undead. It gains the rules, but it gains zombie type rules. What about Jet? Jet's a dragon, isn't it? If Jet's a dragon, Jet dies, goes to the graveyard. It is brought back at the end of the battle phase. If it brings itself back by its own effect, it would not be affected by Call of the Haunted. But if it's sent to the graveyard and remains in the graveyard till the end of the battle phase, and it's brought back by Call of the Haunted, it then becomes a zombie. Not that. So I gotta get back before the end. Well, Jet Dragon's not in this version of Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm gonna point that out. Jet Dragon's not here, so you don't need to worry about that. To make it simple on my fucking sanity, this Yu-Gi-Oh! Sucks. Jet Dragon's too strong. I can't go, oh, by the way, we're using the original 4 sets of Yu-Gi-Oh! By the way, here's Jet Dragon. by the way, here's fucking Jet Dragon. That's way too strong. He's way too powerful. And if I tried to, and I can't balance all the effects of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! with this version of the game, I would have to take it one set at a time and work on their effects from there. Because if I tried to fucking do it with all the effects that exist, I would be dead. Hey, Chewie. I would be, oh God, I would never get done. I'd never get done. I may make an exception for Jet Dragon if you really, really want it, but I'm gonna have to change its effects. What's just crafting? We're making a new version of Yu-Gi-Oh! That plays like a board game / war game, and takes a lot of inspiration from the original version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Played in Duelist Kingdom, in the manga, and in Season 0. I'm looking at when it came out. I guarantee you it was not in Legend of Blue Eyes, Pharaoh's Servant, Metal Raiders, or in Spell Ruler. Oh, I'm sorry, Magic Rulers. It's Spell Rulers now, but it was Magic Ruler back then. It was not in these sets. But we're talking about a new way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now we have for the past month or so, I've been working on in the background at work during my lunchtime. Nah, it was Battle of Chaos. Yeah, that was not the first 4 in the first 4 sets of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's old, but it's not that old. How do I win? Well, you win by 2 methods. Either by destroying your opponent's monsters and reducing their life points to 0, or coming up to your opponent's starter zone, this line right here. The first two rows in this game are your starter zones. This is where you summon your monsters out to head out into the no man's land. So either you come up to the line of your opponent's starter zone and attack them directly, or you destroy their monsters and reduce their life points to 0. That's how you win. 2022. Yeah, that was 3 years ago, Roxy. That was 3 years ago. Attack them directly. Well, you gotta point out, you got a long way to go. You have 2 starter zones, but you have 12 zones in no man's land you need to cross. This is a game about controlling zones, because the more zones you control, the more your field effect goes out. The more your field effect goes out, the stronger monsters you can summon out in no man's land, along with having your monster type effects, because you don't just have monster effects now, you have monster type effects, and also gain the benefits of your attack points from your field spells, from your field zone. Which I was going over the type effects. I had gone through. Man, I remember making my own Yu-Gi-Oh deck without number. You probably feel nostalgic about this, because I took a lot of inspiration from a lot of older Yu-Gi-Oh. Mainly the ways that we play it when we were kids, when we play it wrong. Anyway, we're on rock type monsters now. Rock type monsters. Let me get rid of all these circles here. There we go. Alright. So, rock type monsters have 3 effects. 4 effects, actually. They have 4 effects. 1, they're tough. They have the special rule, tough. Basically meaning that a rock type monster, say this big circle, red circle is a rock type monster, needs to be attacked twice in order to be destroyed. So, attacking over a giant soldier of stone once doesn't work. You gotta hit him twice, and then he dies. This attack twice is cumulative between battle rounds. So, if you attack him in one turn, and you attack your rock monster last turn, and then you attack him this turn, he will still die on the second turn because he loses tough when he is attacked. So it takes 2 swings to put him down. He's also impassable. Basically meaning a rock type monster, unlike the vines, where you can move over the vines but you get grabbed, rock type monsters are just impassable in general. So the areas that they control, areas that they have influence over, which is equal to half their level rounding down. So giant soldier of stone, level 3 monster. So with the zone that he is standing in plus 1 space around him are all areas that he controls, which means you can't go past him. If you want, you can't go into these spaces at all. Any of the spaces that he controls, you can't go in them. I should remove the ones from the front. You can go up to him. You just can't go in the spaces around him. So you can move here and attack giant soldier of stone. You could go 2 spaces around him and just try to go all the way around him. But you can't go into any of these spaces that he controls without getting rid of him. Basically being what the rock monsters are supposed to be. Big fuck off walls. They're just big fucking bastards. Big burly bastards you throw on the board and your opponent has to go through them. And in this game mode, I'm basically just having them be the same thing. Especially with their next effect. Offense is a good defense. Rock type monsters are the only type of monsters that can move and attack while in defense mode. Much like super heavy samurais. They can attack, they use their defense points values as their attack point values. And they can attack in defense mode. and it can also move around the board while in defense mode. So, yeah, they're also lightning rods. What I call them to be lightning rods is I have a couple to take inspiration from the old school Yu-Gi-Oh, where certain monster attributes just had "fuck you, your monster dies" effects. Oh god! Oh god! Because when the old Yu-Gi-Oh monsters apparently just had "fuck you" type effects. For instance, Flame Swordsman, because it was a fire monster, instantly destroyed dinosaur monsters. This is the same kind of rule. Lightning Rod, when a rock monster battles a thunder monster, during the damage calculation, the thunder monster is destroyed. No battle damage is taken in this between this. And no battle damage is taken. So, Giant Shoulder of Stone battles Sangha of the Thunder. It instantly destroys Sangha because Sangha is a Thunder type monster. So try and use a Thunder type monster against Rock type monsters, doesn't work. I already talked about Fiends. Reptiles, I gave reptiles have these special rules of regenerate, which we discussed regenerate before, is if it's destroyed destroyed by battle at the end of the battle phase, it comes back. It comes back from the graveyard, but only once per game. Each monster gets this effect once per game. Each copy of this monster only gets this effect once per game. It also has Cleave, which is the ability we talked about with Blue Eyes, with dragon type monsters. So he gets to attack he gets to attack 3 spaces in front of him, 3 spaces to the side of him, or 3 spaces behind him. He gets to choose which 3 areas he's going to be attacking. It always has to be in a line. It can't be separated. Make an army of reptiles? You can. Reptiles also have this other effect, which is another effect I talked about, but many people weren't here for this. They have access to Ambush. Ambush is an ability I have on beasts. Basically, how it works is at the end of your main phase, when you move your creature, you can choose to set him face down in defense position. What this does, it changes your monster from a normal type monster to a flip effect monster. How flip effects work in this game is based upon the level of the monster. When your opponent moves within range of that monster, range being the level of the set monster, you flip that monster face up. In the case of Ambush, when this happens, when your opponent moves within range, you flip it face up, and the monster that triggered the flip effect loses 1,000 attack points and defense points. If the monster's attack and defense points reach 0, it's destroyed. Also, in Ambush, if there is another set ambush monster on the field, let's say there's another one over here, when another ambush effect monster is activated on the field, while this card is set, you can move this monster to the other. You can move this monster to one zone adjacent to the other monster and use its ambush effect on the monster that triggered the other ambush. So in this case, let's say level 3 monster moves in range right here, triggers this ambushing monster, then another ambushing monster that you have set somewhere else on the board moves to this adjacent space here. And then the activating monster, this one right here, who activated the ambush effect, then loses 1,000 attack points from the monster it triggered and the monster that came over to the spot. So it loses 2,000 attack points. Basically what I have this simulating, of just like with beasts, is that they're attacking in packs. They're ganging up on the monster that triggers the effect, or they're ganging up on the stronger monster that triggered the effect, and reducing its attack points, and basically when it takes it down to 0, they have taken down that monster with an ambush. So that's how reptiles work. That's also how beasts work as well. That's how reptile type monsters work, and this is how beast type monsters work as well. Just lots of ambushing. But ambush doesn't work at range. For instance, let's say your monster has a flip effect, and Blue Eyes White Dragon breath attacks it from 8 spaces away. Unless your monster is a level 8 flip effect monster, it will not be able to activate its effect because the Blue Eyes is not in range of its flip effect. So the way you get around ambush is you attack it from range, which not a lot of monsters have. So your opponent has to be careful in how they're going to trigger the ambushes, or either avoid the ambushes or trigger the ambushes. And I think it's very fun, and giving reptiles regeneration and cleave just makes them a bit more punchy. It makes them a bit more punchy than beasts, than just normal beast type monsters. They're not as fast as beasts because beasts have fleet. So basically every beast type monster at least moves 1 to 2 spaces faster than a reptile monster. Send one of my reptiles as a sacrifice. Yeah, but your opponent gets to choose whether or not they're going to trigger that ambush. They can trigger it for the monster that moves in range. But they don't have, but for like jumping in with a bunch of other monsters, they get to choose whether or not they want to do that. So you would only trigger the one monster's ambush, not like 4, let's say. Ashen, hello, thank you for the follow. I'm not sure how my ramblings have convinced you, but yes. Oh, they choose the extra ambushes. They don't choose the initial ambush, the one that's triggered. Like say, let's just say it's one monster, right? Let's just say it's just one ambushing monster and your monster moves in range. That monster is triggered. Let's say your monster moves right here and triggers it, right? This monster will trigger. But let's say there's another monster that's also an ambush, ready to ambush somewhere across the board. They can choose to not bring this monster over to participate in this ambush. They can just stay over here. Well, this is a different kind of Yu-Gi-Oh. What I'm doing is I've for the past month, and probably for going to be for a while longer, for a goodly while longer, I'll be making some streams about the different about this different way to play Yu-Gi-Oh that I've come up with. And it's basically trying to take inspiration from the old versions of Yu-Gi-Oh, from the manga, from the Season 0 anime, from Duelist Kingdom anime, and trying to take all their incomprehensible rules and make them reality. Make them reality in a way that you can comprehend it, and it can be done. But it's basically working out to be like more of a pseudo war game, deck building war game, than a traditional card game. That's pretty much how it looks. But if that interests you, feel free to stick around. I always like ranting at people about everything that comes to my little mind. Where was I? We're on reptiles, yes, but we're on winged beasts now. Yeah, it's neat. I like the way this is shaping up. Like I said, this is all theory and on paper right now. I just have it in a notebook right here. I still haven't even firmly set in mind how big this board is going to even be. Right now I have it at 5 foot 5 inches long and like 21 inches wide. So enough for 7 spaces wide and 16 spaces deep is basically what I have at the moment. I'm not sure if I'm going to change that or not. I'm not sure what else I'm going to do about that. If I'm going to change my mind on that, make it shorter, make it longer. I don't want to go past like a 6x4 Warhammer table size, because then where the fuck are you going to play this game? Like, where the fuck would you even play this game then? But I do want to make sure I have enough spaces that it takes a level 4 monster 2 to 3 turns to get from your starting zone down here to your opponent's starting zone up here. I'm quite certain that's where I want it to be. I think 2 to 3 turns is reasonable enough distance for you to be able to have enough maneuverability to move around and how you want to move around on the board, but not have it take fucking forever, right? I don't think anyone wants to stand around for like Warhammer length of time and play this game. I don't think anyone's interested in that. But right now, that's where I'm at, 5'5" inches. And that's based on every space being 4 inches long and 3 inches wide. So, yeah. Anyway, I was on monster type effects still. And we're on winged beasts. Winged beasts is one I'm still kind of working on. Of course, winged beasts have flying. Like, of course they have flying rule like the dragons do. That's 100% what they're gonna have. I was thinking of giving them a rule like Rake, where they get to make basically they make an action if they move over an opposing monster. If they move over your opponent's monster, say you take your monster and you move and you fly it over, like a space like right there. All right, you get to make a rake action. What the rake action does is basically it reduces your opponent's attack points by 500 until the end of the next turn. And this does stack with other rake actions. Basically having the idea of having the winged beast be fast, able to move around the board really quick, and then just start slashing at monsters as they fly by. Which is, I would imagine what winged beasts would kind of do. They would use their talons and they would use their speed to just shoop, 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 and weaken you. Would it be OP for winged beasts to avoid ambushes? That's a good question. I think that's the thing I'm debating on, and whether or not it would be. I would say no. That's fine that they can avoid ambushes, but they cannot avoid impassable, and they cannot avoid plant overgrowth. So that they can avoid things like being ambushed by beasts. But if your opponent plays rock monsters or plant monsters, which are designed to be impassable, they're designed to be things that stop your opponent's monster from going anywhere. I think that having them serve that role that even flying monsters can't get over, but having them be able to avoid flip effects like ambush would be reasonable. If that makes sense. A little give and take, because there has to be because flying has good benefits already, and that's what I'm concerned about. Flying has evasion, right? As long as flying gives several effects. One, your opponent. Yeah, flying already gives you several effects. One, you are unaffected by any negative field effect. For instance, if you're playing on a type of field that doesn't benefit your monster at all, or would negatively impact them. For instance, if you're playing in Umi, which reduces monsters' movement speeds to 1 if they're not aqua, or if they're not aqua, sea serpents, or fish. A flying monster ignores that. They also give the benefit of evasion, which allows them to negate any attack or card effect based on a die roll that targets them based on a die roll. So any attack, any attack or card effect, which is cumulative based upon their level. So, for instance, a level 1 or 2 monster that has flying, you would need a 6, and it would, if you roll a 6 on a d6, it negates that card effect, and it negates that attack. So it would negate ambush on a die roll. A level 3 or 4, it's a roll of 5 or more. Anything level 5 or higher, it's a roll of 4 or more. So Blue Eyes being a level 8, if it runs into an ambush, right? I'm already thinking like evasion already gives them protection from ambush, because they run into an ambush, they have evasion. So they roll a die on a 4 or more, they just ignore ambush entirely. That ambush is just negated. So I'm already thinking that they already have it built in with flying. But I'm wondering if that's a bit too gimmicky, a bit too random for ambush. That's the thing I'm debating on, right? That's the thing I'm debating on, whether or not I want them to be able to avoid ambush with this or not. Because I wonder if a roll of 4 or more is a bit, probably is either not good enough or overpowered as fuck. That's why we get to in the game, right? That's why we get to in this little on paper, in theory example, and we probably won't know until we actually get until I actually work on getting a physical card game in front of me and actually bully someone into trying and helping me with this, into helping me with balancing it, with actually like playing it. Right now, I think that evasion is enough to overcome ambush. The third effect that flying gives you, because flying gives you 3. What was it? It was... What was it? I have it right. I have it written down here. I have it written down. Where did I put it? That's duplicate. That's bind. You should have Eclipse. She breathed this shit. No, it'd be kind of weird to talk to Eclipse about this, because we've not talked to each other before. I have come into her streams to talk to her from time to time, but like that's not really enough, I don't think, to go out and talk to her about a random game idea that's in my head. Oh, it cannot be bound. That's it. When do I get my own Chewy's monster? When I get the original set of monsters down, I will work on your monster, Chewy. So it can't be bound. It can't be affected by negative field effects, and it cannot be and it has evasion. So I said to you, I don't give a fuck. I'll think about it. I'll think about it, Roxy. But flying only lasts if you move. So if you, for some reason, during your next turn, during the turn you summon this monster, or whenever really, do not move this monster in your main phase. If you do not, in your main phase 1, move this monster, it loses the effects of flying. It's considered grounded. Also, if the monster is in defense mode it is not flying. It is not considered flying. Either face up or face down. If it's in defense, it's no longer flying. So I think like that kind of balances out flying a bit, because flying gives a lot of good benefits. But basically, if it's in defense mode, or if it has not moved, it does not have flying. Where was I? But I think that and Rake would make good for Wing Beast. Wing Beast would just allow them to reduce attack points so that they can swing over bigger targets by just lowering their attack points down, like how poison works for insects, but for Wing Beast it's clawing them with Rake. Or how Frenzy works for Beast Warriors, but they don't have to die to make Frenzy happen. So I think that's pretty interesting. I think that's a good compromise. I'll think about Ambush, and maybe I'll ask Eclipse. But I'll think on Ambush if I wanted to avoid, if I wanted flying to avoid Ambush or not. I'll think on that. Because I probably have to have it avoid flip effects, triggering flip effects in general by movement in order to have it avoid ambush, right? So it would affect more than just ambush. It would affect any triggering flip effect, like Maneater Bug. Because ambush confers making a monster a flip effect monster. And flip effects work how I said they already did. So fairies are the next type of monsters on this list. Fairies are incorporeal, meaning fairies cannot be targeted for attacks and cannot be targeted with card effects. They also cannot attack directly. Fairies cannot attack. Fairies cannot attack directly. Fairies have access to him, which basically allows them to. What I want fairies kind of role to be in this game is to be a ubiquitous buffing monster. So him allows them to any monster within their range based on their level can give an additional 300 attack points. I'm thinking about 300, maybe 500, just to keep it nice and round and even, to any monster within its range. Well, to all monsters within its range, not just one monster. It's to all monsters within its range. They also have fly, and they also have the rule Explorer. Since I want fairies to be ubiquitous buffers, it doesn't really make sense to have them start suffering negative effects from the other fields they get put on, right? From the other fields they might get put on. So they have the rule called Explorer, which means they don't suffer any negative effects from being on another field. They don't get the bonuses, but they don't get the negative effects. To put rock type monsters in the front and fairies at the back, you can do that. You can do that. You would also struggle. Yeah, Roxy's here. Roxy's my moderator. But you can get around that in several ways. For instance, you can destroy them by card effect. You can destroy the rock monster by card effect because the rock monster is affected. You can turn off their effects by using the usual ways to take control of no man land zones, like through spellcasters, for instance. Which, if your monster is on a zone that you do not control, then you do not get the monster type effects of that monster. So there are, and etc. Use ambush, use rake, use yada 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 yada. Use insect poisons. You have numerous ways to get around that. It just takes time. It just takes time, which is entirely what the wall should be. The wall should not be it stays there forever and your opponent can do nothing about it. The wall should be, it stalls your opponent and that's perfectly fine. So you have plenty of tools to get around it, and you have plenty of tools. You have plenty of tools that are just ubiquitous to not just your type of monster, but are available to all. They're available to like things like all spellcasters or just Yu-Gi-Oh in general. That will allow you to overcome things like castle rock monsters with fairy monsters. So yeah. I think no, it is not a bad strategy. It's not a bad strategy, I will say. We then have thunder monsters. Thunder monsters are hydrophobic, meaning if they get into battle with any aqua, sea serpent, or fish type monster, they destroy that monster during the damage step, and no battle damage is applied. They have evasion. So they have a die roll to negate any attack or effect that targets them. They also have range. They're one of the few monsters that actually has the effect of range, aside from spellcasters. Now, ranged is basically just you attack like normal. It gives you the ability to attack like normal, but you can attack up to the number of spaces away from the monster equal to your level. So your monster's here. Let's say it's Sangha of the Thunder, it's level 7. So you can attack any monster that's 7 spaces away from Sangha of the Thunder with range. So that's basically how it works. It doesn't pierce targets like breath attacks do. Breath attacks, you draw a line from the monster out a number of spaces equal to its level. Range is just pick one monster within its range and attack that monster. That's the difference. We then have now see it's starting to overlap a little bit. So now I don't have to spend so much time explaining them. We have machines. Machines are one I kind of like. One, they're tough 2. They're tough times 2, which means they have the toughness rule twice. So you have to attack them 3 times to destroy them. Each time they are attacked, they lose 1 toughness rule. They lose 1 toughness permanently. So it doesn't have to be 3 times in one battle phase. It can be 3 times over 3 turns if you want to do it that way. They also have Stomp. So during the damage calculation, if they are the ones attacking, they get times 2. Their attack points increase times 2 during the damage step only. They also have Electric. Now, Electric is basically if it's not a thunder monster or a machine monster, and this monster gets in battle with an opponent's monster, that monster that attacked this monster is stunned. This is only if the monster is being attacked. This is only if your machine type monster is being attacked. If the monster is stunned, it can't move next turn, and it cannot attack next turn. So you know, battling machine monsters kind of rough. You kind of want to just pick them off at range if you can with breath attacks, or destroy them through ambush, because ambush does not trigger this effect. Reduce attack points 0 with poison. That does not trigger this effect. Things like that. So you getting in direct fisticuffs with the monster, with the machine monster, is not a good idea. You can make it work, but you're going to have to overwhelm them which is hard to do. But there aren't that many machine type monsters. Well, actually, that's a lie. There's quite a few of them, but they're not really that strong. So, I think the highest machine attack monster is 2,000 attack points in the first 4 sets. So when he attacks with Stomp, he's 4,000 attack points. Which again, pointing out all the attack and attack reduction effects going around. It's not that much. It's not that much. Pyros. We're on Pyros now. Pyros have... Oh man, I just realized the time. Let me get through this real quick. Pyros have Dinophobia, Reptile Phobia, and Evasion and Cleave. We already talked about Evasion. We already talked about Cleave. Dinophobia, same thing as Hydrophobia. It destroys all dinosaur monsters that battle with this monster. Reptile Phobia, reptiles, same thing. Aqua, it has Fire Extinguisher. Fire type monster that battle with this monster die instantly. It has Conceal, and it has Ambush. So it has the same conceal that fiends do, where where attacks against them fizzle out if your opponent does not roll higher than a 3. And they have Ambush, which we talked about Ambush before. Fish have Evasion, Ambush, and Duplicate. Duplicate is an ability I talked about earlier. Not many people were here for that, so... Well, I don't know. Actually, I have no fucking idea how many people were here for that. You know, I have no idea how many people were here for that, actually. I'm making a guess. But I explained it earlier. Some of you were not here for that, so let me explain it again. Duplicate is an ability that allows you, when you summon a monster, to make a token duplicate of that monster... take an exact token duplicate of that monster, same attack, same level, same type, same attributes, all that jazz, same effects, and you make a number of tokens equal to the level of that monster consulting a chart. So if it's level 1 or 2, you make 3 tokens. If it's 3 or 4, you make 2 tokens. 5 or more, you make 1. 5 or higher, you make 1 token. I see you got a new game. I am talking about the new game, actually. I'm talking about a Yu-Gi-Oh game I'm making, actually. I'm talking about a Yu-Gi-Oh game I'm trying to make. That's more like a tabletop war game, and I'm going through the special effects, actually, right now, of the special effects of monster types. It's been pretty fun. I enjoy the rambling nonsense I have going on right here. So Duplicate, pretty strong, but it usually applies to weaker monsters. Like insects, for instance, have Duplicate, and insects and fish don't really have a lot of super strong monsters out there. At least none that aren't going to be too much of an issue. It sounds nice. I think it's really neat. I need to test. I need to actually physically test the game to see how everything shakes out. I'm almost done. I'm writing out these special rules. I'm almost done with the special rules. And then I need to go through how I already did rules on movement. I need to go through rules on battle. I need to go through rules on how spellcasters work, because spellcasters have their entire own section. Let me point out, spellcasters are basically sub-commanders in this game, and their type is dependent upon what attribute the spellcaster is. They also can preload any spell card. Well, not any spell card. They can preload any normal spell card into being a quick play spell card by equipping the spell card to the spellcaster. And you can equip a number of spell cards to the spellcaster based upon its level, based upon half its level rounding down. Yeah, this is what you're seeing here is kind of the field. It's a poorly MS Paint drawn field. Basically, the idea of it is you have your 2 starter zones. Here's your opponent's starter zone. Here's your starter zone. This is where you both start. This is where you both choose what field you're playing on. And this is where you summon your first monsters and set your spell cards. Set your spell cards, set your trap cards. This big chunk in the middle is no man's land. The point of the game is to move out from your starter zone, take control of the zones in no man's land, and move your way up to your opponent to either attack them directly or attack their monsters that are coming out to reduce their life points to 0. The further out you move, the further out you can summon monsters. You can only summon higher level. This was something that we were talking about in chat earlier. And I like the idea of it, so I'm gonna steal that idea. You can only summon level 5 or higher monsters out in no man's land. You can't summon level 5 or higher monsters in your starter zone. And yeah, that's basically the general point. When you control zones out here in no man's land, if your monster's on a zone that you control, you get your monster type effect plus 500 attack and defense points. And I was going through the monster type effects. These are the effects that are based upon, they're effects that your monster gets based upon what type it is. Spellcasters have their own section because they're going to be a lot more in depth because they're basically going to be pseudo sub-commanders. They can do, as I point out, they can preload any spell card to be a quick play spell card. They can take any 4 zones in no man's land and flip it to your control. They can summon fusion monsters and ritual monsters from your extra deck. By the way, in this version of the game, ritual monsters are extra deck monsters. How it works is you need polymerization, or you need not polymerization. You need your ritual spell card, and you equip the ritual spell card to your spellcaster. And your spellcaster, after 1 turn goes by, will then summon the ritual monster. And fusion monsters, you play polymerization with your spellcaster and take any 2 monsters on the field of the appropriate type. My monster crew, yeah. I changed how fusion monsters work. I took inspiration from a older Yu-Gi-Oh video game. And it's in the older Yu-Gi-Oh video game, how it worked is you take any 2 monsters, you fuse them together, and it makes a random fusion monster based upon basically a bunch of random parameters that don't make any sense. I changed it a bit where you can take any 2 monsters of the appropriate type and use it to fusion summon a fusion monster. So, for instance, Labyrinth Tank is made of, I think it's Cannon Soldier and Gigatech Wolf. So 2 machine monsters make Labyrinth Tank. So things like that. Fusionist needs 1 fairy and 1 winged beast. So you would look at the fusion monster, and the fusion monster would be like, okay, this monster on here is a fairy type, it's a winged beast type, it's a beast type, it's an insect type, and then you just go, all right, here's an insect, here's a beast, here's the fusion monster it makes, right? So that's basically how I changed those to work, but you need a spellcaster in order to use it. Just any spellcaster of the appropriate type, which is based upon the attribute of the spellcaster, which I'll get to that when I get to that. Which I'll get to that when I get to that. That's its whole thing down the line. We still have 1 more type of monster. Ooh, googly eyes didn't work. Googly. There we go. Hello, Apo. We still have one more type of monster. One more type. I can't believe you clowned me like this. I can't believe. We have toon monsters. Take a picture. Oh, no, the line. The line! Ah! Was I beautiful? Was I beautiful, Chewy? Hello, Apple. Yes, we have toon monsters. Toon monsters, I think I'm missing sea serpents on here, but they are the last type of monster on this list. I'll get sea serpent later if I missed it. They have evasion, tough, range, and they have tunify. Now, I've already explained what evasion, tough, and range are. For those who don't know, evasion allows you to negate an attack or card effect that targets this monster on a die roll. Tough, you can survive one attack without, and you will not. You can survive one attack. Range, you can attack any monster within the range level of this monster. Tunify. Now, tunify is a different effect. Tunify is if you have Toon World on the field, you can make any monster into a toon monster. Tunify basically allows you to have both your original effects of the monster you have toonified and the toon monster effects. So toon monsters have both their original monster type effects and their toon effects at the same time. This, I think, more makes up for the fact that if you destroy Toon World, all the original Toon monsters are basic die, pretty much. All the original Toon monsters have the effect of they need to pay 500 life points to attack, and they all, if Toon World is destroyed, they are destroyed. So I think giving them like, with this, they would have, through Tunify and through Evasion, Tough, and Range, they would basically have at most 6 effects. I think that makes up for their negatives, for the severe negatives that Toon cards have, and those negatives are really bad. So I was very generous with Toons, trying to get them, make them something that people would go, okay, yeah, if someone destroys Toon World, I'm in trouble, but they're also tough. They also have evasion, so they're harder to hit. They also have range, so they can just poke things from range, even if it costs me 500 life points to do that. They can also have, let's say if it's the Toon Blue Eyes White Dragon, they would also have breath attack. They would also have cleave. They would also have flying. So yeah, I think that makes up for the negatives of having negative of Toon monsters. It also gives you a wider pool of Toon monsters to work with, because Toon World makes all your monsters Toon monsters. They do not suffer the effect of if Toon World is destroyed, they're all destroyed. But they do lose Toonify if Toon World is destroyed. So that's the trade-off there. But yeah, that's the last effect I have on here in my little book. I still have some more to go over, but I'm realizing that I have been going for almost 3.5 hours. It's 10:30. I need to go to bed. It's 10:30. I need to go to sleep. But I still have quite a few more pages of stuff I've been working on, and I still have quite a few stuff I still need to work on in the future. Soon, once I get the firm idea written down in my little notebook here, that's right next to me, of all the rules I'm going to be using for this game, I'm going to transfer them from this notebook to a Word document or a Notepad document, maybe. Probably a Word document, because I need to because I need to actually like get images on there in case someone needs a visual representation of what I'm talking about. So, and I'm gonna have all the rules in there, and I'm gonna put it on the server so that if people want to try out this different version of Yu-Gi-Oh for themselves with their friends or play it on Tabletop Simulator or something, I don't know, you are welcomed to do it. Right now, it's just not, it's not ready, so I'm not putting it up yet. But I'm really liking the way it's shaping up, at least on paper. I'm liking the way it's looking, and the ideas of the game are super like I think are super interesting. I think it very much at the moment, looking at on paper, it captures the idea of the original Yu-Gi-Oh, the old version, the stuff we saw as a kid on the television, and I think it captures it pretty well. And makes the rules that seem like they were just random nonsense, that makes the rules that were just random nonsense and turns them into something conceivable, something that you can actually like, okay, you can plan for it, you can deal with it, and you can also, and it also gives you more flexibility in the ways to play with the old cards rather than just summon monster attack, you know? So, that's all I got for right now. I mean, I have a little bit more, but I'm not gonna go into it right now. We're going to raid out. Who are we gonna raid out to, huh? Who are we gonna raid out to? Let's who are we gonna raid out? I see Harvey Wormies is playing demos, playing Otome Thursday. It's on Otome, playing Otome games. Thank you for coming by, Chewy. I appreciate you. I appreciate you all. I gotta get some schnoozies. So do I. So do I. Let's raid Hermes. Keep it simple. Raid Hermes _ Rosies. At least say hi to Hermes before you go. All right. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you all. Friday, we have a collab with Celeste. We have a collab with Celeste, Kuro, Rafina, and Killa. And Saturday, we are watching The Lord of the Rings with the UFC gang. And Sunday, we are continuing with Fatal Frame, the original Fatal Frame. So, I hope you all had fun and enjoyed my... It was fun. Thank you, Smoke. I appreciate it. I hope to see you all again later. Everyone have a good one. Goodbye.